Hi, everybody. This is Lesson for Full Spectrum Humans, Level 1, Lesson 15. This is intentional use of energy. And the comprehensive view of what I'm sharing with you today is that your minds do create and connect with and emit reality, and you're in a collective battle of the bands right now. If you want to know why is there bad stuff, like if you're listening to my videos and you're in my classes and you're a good person, because I have good people in my classes, you might look around at the world and be like, I'm a good person and I'm emitting good stuff into the world. Why do I see so much garbage in the world? And the answer is that it's a battle of the bands. And your mind is creating a particular musical movement or thought pattern movement that you're emitting out. And you're good people because what you're doing is aligning your mind, your intentions, your own natural gifts, and your cellular structure with the larger divine harmonics, something that is fractally bigger than you, more complex, and contains more information than you. And you're like, I want to be in alignment with that pattern and with those events. And then there are the other ones that are here in the realm with you or in existence or have a presence here in some way. I have difficulty even finding the right way to describe them. And they're bad musicians. And they're intentionally creating negative reality structures. And when I say negative, I don't just mean like, I have it's not aesthetic to my tastes. Like, I prefer a different color, or I don't like that. I'm really speaking about something that is pathogenic. And something that is pathogenic causes disease and death. So these are not just my own personal, whimsical, again, aesthetics or parameters where I'm like, I prefer this. I prefer it to look like this and not to look like this. Or I just prefer my music to sound like this and not to sound like this. I am talking about something that is empirical or at the essence of truthfulness and measurable. And it relates to, I don't know where my little silver pointer is because I use it as a stylus to touch the screen. So I'm using my pencil as the magical consciousness stylus here today. But things that are pathogenic, thought forms, thought particles, thought energy, thought frequency, and thought behavior patterns in the synapses of your brain, like how your brain is playing music, are pathogenic when they make your pencil of consciousness go from being upright and aligned with divinity to pointing towards the membrane of death. That's it. That's the basic math. And then from there are all of these human interpretation systems and philosophies and recipes and judgment systems and all these things. But the real estimation is something is pathogenic when it takes you away from this eternal life and towards death. So you have to be really cautious about language. Language is so inadequate for describing and participating in reality because like when you use Clorox bleach or whatever, hydrogen peroxide, you're using a cleaning product that kills microbes. You're killing pathogens. In my bathroom, I certainly need to scrub the bathroom, guys. When I'm on top of all of my daily chores, what you do is you have spray cleaner and you have paper towels. I'm explaining this to you as if you're like me from another world. And what do? You spray it on surfaces to kill pathogens. You're killing pathogens. So you're not preserving life. If you're preserving life, you'd be like, oh, all of these microbes exist. I'd better not kill them. I'd better not kill these microbes. I'd better allow them to flourish and proliferate. And with all the bad stuff, I want to say feces, on all of the surfaces in the bathroom, let's just leave it be because we don't want to end life, right? And you're like, no, Aurora, that's crazy. If you do that, you live in a pigsty. You have to clean things. Cleaning things means killing pathogens. Cleaning things means killing pathogens. Cleaning things means killing pathogens. Every time you use soap, you become a mass murderer to pathogens or microbial negative tiny forms of life. I'm just looking to see if Cheeky came because I thought that I heard little paws behind me. So sorry if I just broke what I was saying in order to check on Cheeky. But she's doing great. I'm sure she'll join us. Yes, no, you become a homicidal maniac of bad bacteria and microorganisms when you clean your bathroom. Rubbing alcohol and basic soap These are your weapons of mass destruction from the viewpoint of a tiny pathogen microbial thing. It's like, oh, I'm just trying to live here and build my microbial colonies. And this giant paper towel full of Windex keeps on wiping me away. Oh no, we're getting wiped out. We're getting wiped out. Okay, so of course I'm being very silly and facetious. Everybody knows it is part of your basic right to exist, to have an immune system and to destroy pathogens that are in your body through microbial invaders. And it is a very, very necessary part of human hygiene to destroy pathogens in your environment. You are not a bad person, and you are actually, it's socially positive and encouraged to do your chores, which are usually cleaning chores, washing pathogens out of your shirt and underwear, washing pathogens off of the dishes that you used for your food, even like washing pathogens off of your food before you actually consume it, wiping pathogens out of the sink and other places where you touch and where water runs, like all of that in order to say that you're not here simply to preserve life. That is a simplification and bad linguistic acrobatics that put people into torturous convolutions about how to behave in the world, and also how do you behave in the Battle of the Bands. The answer is what you're doing on a smaller scale when you are fighting microbes that are pathogens in the world. You are doing on a larger scale in this Battle of the Bands. And let me get my piece of paper that I use to communicate here. But the great challenge for you right now is that your music is acoustic. It is non-amplified. It comes out of the guitar of your brain. You're not plugged into the wall. You haven't gone electric, but there are some people who have gone electric, and they have stuff in their brain that is amplifying their brain music, and their brain music is bad music. Now, this stuff that I usually interpretively dance and share with you, I don't mention it, the unmentionables, is not the only stuff that over history has amplified the minds of some bad musicians. Even predating the technological stuff that is amplifying a lot of very tortured and diseased pathogenic minds right now, even before that, there was a value system that is basically involved in dark magic, but is almost synonymous with the power structure in the world, which is why when I describe it, you're going to be like, but that's just earthly politics. And I'm going to be like, yes, you have to reassess everything about that. But it is an ideological framework and worldview structure that is implanted into children in certain families when they come here that elevates them in their mind and capacitates them to be able to think things into being and be powerful people. Your girl, oh, she's right over there. It is not a naturally occurring nerve plexus, just as language is not naturally occurring. Like you come here and you have to learn how to speak, and then you have to learn how to write, and your ABCs and 1, 2, 3 is like, these are not pre-existing neural structures. You have to come here and intentionally cultivate them. It is the same thing with this cultivation of this. Cheeky is here. Let's hug her. We're going to talk about the nerve plexus. But first, hug a small dog. Cheeky, let's hug. Good job. Good job. All right. We need this lightheartedness. Good job, everyone. Thank you for taking a moment for Cheeky. Good job, Cheeky. Everybody loves you. It's international. International groups of people love you. Cheeky's very, very grateful for you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the essence of dark magic. So you're in a battle of the bands, not just against technologically amplified, gross, evil, inadequate minds and wanky losers. That's going on. But even predating 2020 and turning on the frequency, there was definitely a concerted and organized effort to hijack reality, and that's what is called dark magic or black magic. And dark magic, black magic, this is a form of technology that is ancient, and it is the type of technology that human minds did not or do not comprehend, and so they have labeled it as magic. And the current crop of human horrible scientists that's in your world right now, they've also been working at that level where they're working with machines that they call quantum and quantum D-wave. But basically what they're doing is building a thing that they don't know how it works. And they're like, it's the magic box, consult the magic box. So that is like they're working with things that are beyond their levels of sophistication and perception, so they cannot comprehend what is actually happening. In fact, this is a brief aside because I need to talk about dark magic, but I also want to talk about what I call like the hydrogel soldiers, and they're fictionally, of course, in existence. That many of them are so disconnected from reality. Oh, I have to talk about this in a better way. Okay, I will talk about that in a better way. Stop. Go because I realize that's a tangent and opening a whole can of worms. I'm going to stay focused. Going back to talking about dark magic and that is a form of sophisticated technology and that this is about amplifying certain people's minds. So in your human realm, you have accepted that there is a hierarchy of stratification of status. Some people are at the higher levels of the hierarchy and they have higher status, and supposedly their minds are more valuable and their mind emanations are more valuable. And you call these people like kings and leaders, but they are not special. They came here with an unformed brain and they had people talking to them since infancy and telling them, little, like here I am, like holding a little tiny child or whatever, like, hey, little child, like you're special and you can make things happen in the world. People will listen to you. And it creates neural pathways in their mind. And then they also have reinforcement where people around them actually do listen to them. And this is it's not just that a person has an innate sense of this, they are trained into it and the neural pathways are created. And it is basically training for entitlement to access and hijack reality. So I use King Charles as an example. He's a public figure, certainly like, an obvious person in the world. I'm not just bullying random people on the internet. He's an example of this. Born into a certain family, and of course his ancestors all had this spoken into them as well. And so that helps to sustain the illusion because it is really an illusion of power. And he, from the very young age, was trained in these neural pathways and this expectation of empowerment and even an entitlement to power and to access to resources and access to social power. So that would be like relationships or love conquests. I won't even call it love conquests. Like actual sexual access to people and having a sense of entitlement and ownership over the people that live within the geographic boundaries of where he is the ruler of. That is, so in an ordinary person, that would be considered a self-grandiose mania, right? If you had those neural pathways in a non-elevated person, they'd be like, you crazy girl, you're not the king. But for the king, that is the appropriate neural structure for that person. He is not a special person. But the key point is that in dark magic, people with that entitlement, artificially elevated neural structure connect to time in unhealthy ways because they're like, hey, I am here and I'm the owner of all of these riches. Like, I own this country. I own the peasants in this country. I access the women of this country. People give me whatever they want. And then they also think that that will translate to, I own all of DNA. I'm allowed to do whatever I want with all of DNA. Or my mind, this is evil person speaking now, should be the loudest. It's the crappiest mind, but I'm the king. And so I should be the loudest and everybody should listen to me. Do you understand the power structure of who should be listened to in the band? So it's essential for me to articulate this so that then you can dismantle it within yourself. You should now be reassessing. You're like, why does that guy have that neural nerve plexus? Just because a bunch of people kissed his ass since infancy. And then they also basically gang stalked him in reverse to make him feel that he was special and powerful. He is not special and powerful, does not have really any psychic gifts or any gifts of intellect or gifts of creativity. Like he is not really above average or unique in any way. And all of you are in many ways greater, more endowed. You have psychic gifts, you have spiritual gifts, you have intellectual gifts, you have creativities, even the ability to like whatever, crochet a sweater or crochet socks. Like the king of England doesn't do that and doesn't have those skills. So really he is a person with no skills and no creativity and nothing but the capacity for some level of social power or social dynamics. And that's basically the ability to bullshit well. And that is not like a real skill and definitely not a transferable life skill. So you can also look at that and you can look at the smaller nerve plexuses that are in middle managers everywhere, like people who boss other people around. They don't really have their own creativity. They don't really add anything to the system, but they do have opinions about how you should do your job and love to tell you how to do it. That's the my little Tonka truck version of the larger nerve plexus that a king has installed into them. And so King Charles is totally an evil, dark magician, and he's part of a whole occult system that has been an empowerment system in the world for a long time. And now all of that is being disempowered and broken down. And so a lot of what I'm telling you is so that you can become, you can claim your power, you can win in the battle of the bands. We got to turn down their music. So how do they amplify their bad minds? What is the original pre-nano wetware technology that is used to amplify bad minds? So it is basically called money. Money is the tool that is used to amplify bad ideas. Think about that. I know that's a good one. I'm very funny, but it is truthful. And when you look at who has money in the world, you're also like, that seems very accurate, Aurora. I know. So I'm also working very much behind the scenes too, end that paradigm and make sure that now people who have good ideas that are harmonically perfect and in alignment with divine intelligence are the people who have money, that money becomes an amplifier for good ideas. And that is how it should actually be used, or a reward for having good ideas, because that is what life force is. So when we look at in a pristine system how life force flows through chakras or energy centers, and read my notes from 10 years ago, it's still very, very relevant. As light force is flowing through chakra centers, that is like your currency. That is like your the indelible money of the world, and it is really non-hijackable. And I've done a lot of analysis through the wetware assaults that are going on in the world right now. I'm really able to tell, like, what is the energy that sustains life and that sustains cellular life and sustains the physical body and the creature, the organic self through time. And then what is this other artificial energy that has been, it's false light, flowing to people and artificially whatever networked and there's a flow like sometimes over here, but sometimes over here. What networked and I don't have a word for it, but flowing in certain non-natural patterns that is running parallel to the cellular system, but is not connecting with the cellular system. So the transhuman, that's what I'll call them, the transhumans who are in the world have an artificial plastic Jesus implanted parallel, not only neural network, but really energy network. And it is really not enough to sustain the physical body at all. It is a distraction to the physical body. So the physical body is like, I'm trying to do like cellular metabolites. I'm trying to make my glucose run the body and use water to run my cells. And then there's this alternative thing that is like the zapping energy that is entering into the body. And it does not help the cellular presence at all. It is actually hugely corrosive to the cellular body. And the people who have willingly undergone this implantation, whatever, demonic possession via hydrogels, their bodies are not healthy. I really want this to get across to you. Although it is falsely advertised as something that would keep them an Ubermensch augmentation that would either make them stronger or make them younger or make them smarter or keep them younger longer, it has been 100% the opposite. And you guys are now getting smart through your interactions with some of these software companies and larger fraudsters. What they make a big pronouncement and they say, we're going to come out with this amazing software program. We haven't developed it yet, but we're gonna, and it's going to be so great. It's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do this. It's going to add to your life and make things so much easier. And each one of you can clearly remember like the hype around anything, and then you get the thing, and you're like, this sucks. And it does not add to my life or make my life easier at all. This is actually just worse. and more steps, more like tedious, cringe-worthy distress. And then I have lost my password and now I have to call customer service. Like none of these things really help you. All of these things are really shitty. Sorry, kids. And then also they're expensive and then also they break. This is what you've learned. Everything from like everything that you thought would be a time-saving convenience and instead turned out to be like a misery creation device. Oh my God, I can tell that anecdote. I have a friend in the neighborhood and she is in her late 70s and has had a bunch of health problems too, but I'm always like trying to help her with natural remedies. Okay, so she's doing pretty good. And I'm over there sometimes and I overheard her on the phone to customer service because she's got an Apple computer. She's got a problem with her password. And so I overhear her talking with the customer service lady. And she's like, oh, yeah, like I had cancer a couple of years ago. And it's so difficult to get my password restored and everything. I thought maybe my cancer would just recur and I would just die before I had to deal with this. And I'm like, that is terrible. Like that is how anti-life technology is. And it's just a little anecdote. And we've hardly even gotten going in class. And I'm already telling anecdotes, but like that is how bad the technology is. It is so anti-life and non-life affirming that I know someone who literally would think like it is easier just to die than to go through the rigmarole for your password, whatever, Apple ID reset. Like that is how bad it is. It does not add to your life, drains your life force energy. Okay, but when I went that away, and my friend is doing very well, and her password got reset, but it can drain your life force. It can drain your will to live and your hope for existence to have to deal with this technology. And the hydrogels are the ultimate pinnacle of that, that they were presented to the higher echelons and the elite in your world as something that would add to their lives, make them better, make them the bionic man running in slow motion, faster, better, stronger. And then like he crushes a tennis ball with his hands. Yeah, that was what the hydrogels are supposed to do. And instead, what it did was it gave people like circulatory system inflammation, brain inflammation. They got old before their time, all these different things. The bones, their joints broke down earlier. And this is just from like the past 5 years. So, okay, this is not part of my notes right now, but here's information about what is actually going on. This hydrogel stuff was retro engineered or given from what was like civilizations that would be perceived as in the future. And the very, very erroneous people of now that are the technologists and the transhumanists, they were like, oh, because I saw it in the future, I know that it will necessarily be. That is an erroneous presumption because you saw a version of the future, not necessarily the version of the future that you will experience. And then they also believed the hype from the software engineers of the future. Just like the Apple software engineers are like, get this new phone, it will add to your life and add to your productivity. And instead you end up on customer service phone line for 3 hours trying to reset your password. Rug pull, it did not add to your life. It is the same exact proposal or dynamic between the future advanced societies who use time travel in a very bad way, in a very disruptive way to the world, how they gave firecrackers to children or idea structures and even technology that people of this time, could retro engineer and apply to life and use for reality distortion, DNA distortion, and creating and amplifying their minds, creating bad stories and using that to affect reality. And because it was presented as a way to be powerful, like more powerful, like all of these things are presented as amplifications of empowerment. It's like, definitely you're not good enough on your own. And people like a king, a regular guy's like, no, I'm not good enough and powerful enough on my own. Give me this nerve plexus, make me a king. And then the kings or elite of this time and place were like, give me black goo, give me hydrogels, make it even bigger. And these are people who have an elevated sense of self. So of course, King Charles is born into a lineage of that and has been ass-kissed since a tiny child. But then there are, of course, others who are what is the word? They're technology, affinity for technology related people. So like someone like the guy who runs Amazon or Bill Gates or someone like that, they also have a similar desire to be elevated above others, feelings of not being good enough, and really wanting to use any form of artificial augmentation to be powerful over others. Like that is a negative personality characteristic and not a good, that's one of the things that you would turn the volume down in Flying Rainbow Lasagna when you're looking at the characteristics, like what are life affirming, what are pathogenic. That's a pathogenic characteristic. And a person who has a desire to be powerful over others, like if it was in any way healthy, what they would do is they would cultivate themselves to be more powerful. So that means like through their own efforts, maybe they would work out at the gym and be more physically powerful, or do intellectual exercises and memory exercises to be intellectually more powerful, or to do something that elevates their natural gifts so that that way they could use their natural gifts in the world. But it's very, very, it's like if you can run fast, and like run fast, run a marathon. But imagine a person that doesn't do any of that and still wants to be powerful over others. What do? Create some kind of technological, like, crappy thing. Be like a technological exoskeleton. Then I'll put that on me and then I will run a marathon and then I'll be fast and then people will respect me. Like, no, no, people do not respect the artificially augmented because people are natural. And they're like, I can do that naturally. And I do not respect the artificially augmented. So in the battle of the bands, it is the naturals versus the unnaturals. And I am a natural 100% and encourage you to be 100% natural. Detox your body from all hydrogels. Go entirely with your own inner and non-technological capabilities and guidance, and basically, disentangle from and disassociate from the use of technology. And of course, I use technology. I'm talking on the computer with you here, and I've done that as a building bridges throughout the time that I've been here as Aurora, because early on I realized, like, if you don't have technology, you don't really have a voice. Like, that goes all the way back to when I lived in Woodstock, because I didn't have a computer and I didn't have a cell phone. Like, it wasn't that ubiquitous back then. But yeah, I didn't do anything. I mean, nobody knew about me. And I was like, okay, like if I want people to know about Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I have to find an effective way to communicate, and that involves technology in this time and place. But that is the real issue, that in order to have your mind participatory, like you have human culture, and in order for your mind and your voice to be a part of human culture in this time and place, you use technology. That means getting a computer and writing things on an online message board or using a phone and talking to people. But you're not supposed to have to use those things. You're supposed to just use the powers of your mind and your thoughts going outward. And what it's supposed to be is people that have a naturally loud mind are the best singers on the planet. They're the people making the music. They're the people who are the thought leaders, who are actually supposed to be here thinking loud thoughts. And that's totally fair. Like, some people are supposed to be here and they're supposed to lift 500 pounds, and some people only lift 5 pounds. I mean, when I work out, I don't lift 500 pounds. Like, that's not my body. Someone else should do that. And any other thing. Some people are here to run whatever 65 miles, and some people only run two. That is good. That's meritorious. It's the way it's supposed to be. In our world, think of it like being an opera singer. Some people have been born with beautiful vocal cords, and they also cultivate their voices because this is a muscle to be able to make perfectly round vocal cords. And when you do that, the vocal waves go outward, and they're so powerful and so coherent. You can hear them very far away, and they can even shatter glass. All right. So you can't be like, why do you have that voice and I don't have that voice? And I know I'll create an artificial microphone. And as long as I have my magic wand, I can sing into my magic wand, and then my voice will be as loud as your voice. And then we're the same, right? That you're not the same. And the quality of voice of a person who doesn't have a strong voice and needs a microphone is because they're not making perfect sound waves. So relate that directly and relate that, analogy directly to what your mind is emitting. Some people have loud vocal cords of their mind, and they emit thought structures and reality creation structures that are very, very strong and coherent. And they go outward, 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 and they have a big impact on reality. And some people do not have good thought structures. Some people have pathogenic thought structures, which is thinking about like a horror movie, like, blood and guts and torment and misery. That's not good. And that, I want you to know, does not have a staying power. I need to hydrate. Drinking some of my wonderful mate over here. Thank you for that. So misery actually does not travel very far. And you'll be happy to hear that. like as an emotional and cognitive song, misery and torment and torture has very chaotic and incoherent waves. It doesn't go very far, but joy goes very far. And the type of joy that I'm talking about is the type of joy that in your language you say, when your heart sings. Dun, dun, that's called love. That goes very far. Okay. So think of it, whatever, as an aroma, like the stink of misery. It doesn't travel very far. It's very stinky, but it doesn't go anywhere. At least it stays by its own like doo-doos. But the smell of pure joy and love from your heart really travels very far. And it goes even across parallel timelines, past and future. Battle of the Bands. You want to be creating and emanating the reality structures and the frequency or harmonic structures that are like the joy that emanates from your heart. And everybody's heart is different. Like what makes your heart sing is different and unique. You have to do socially positive things. You can't be like, oh, my heart sings when I'm like, whatever, filleting puppies. Like, you can't do that. That is not okay because there are pathogens in this world. And they would be like, oh, yeah, I'm in my groove. I'm in my flow state when I am, whatever, destroying innocent, beautiful puppies or kittens or butterflies or something like that. My happy place is tearing the wings off butterflies. No, that is not acceptable. So this only relates to those of you who are healed or who are in a correct emotional state where the things that make your heart sing are actually socially positive and divinely connected events. And for me, the things that make my heart sing are my creative activities, doing my music, literally singing, doing my uh, artwork, sewing, embroidery, and creation, and also my dance and my athleticism. Let me talk about the creation and doing things like that and how this is part of this singing of good music. When I need a material, like if I'm going to make a project, I might either need whatever, a piece of fabric or a dress or a sewing needle or some kind of thing. And the manifestation or receiving and creation of that material item, like that's a miracle. That's the beginning of the creative process to be able to even make whatever, like a paintbrush, a canvas, a thing. And then out of the raw ingredients, then you make more beauty. And then out of that, you make another thing and the beauty increases and it is magnified by the multiple times that you have made it. So it's not just like, okay, like you made one thing of beauty in the world and that's it, it's done. It's like, no, you made one, but that's not enough. You need to make like 10,000 and you make 10,000. And then it's like a million units of beauty because of the way that all of these things fit together. That is truthful of my artwork, but that is also truthful of like social dynamics and how you create community. A lot of what you haven't been able to explore yet in your soul evolution process and ascension experience is things that are based in community because everybody has been forced to stand 6 feet apart for the past 5 years. I know even though that is an outdated modality, but I'm using that as you understand, like there was an energetic wedge that was placed between people's energy fields, difficulty in relating to one another, difficulty in having a genuine love connection, and difficulty in building community. And you've been living in a fragile and facade level of human economy for the past 5 years. So now it's all going to be very like evidently like the facade in the Old West movie, like it falls forward and there's no building behind it. So you have not had the opportunity to create genuine, sacred, and respectful commerce between people. And then you've had this facade of an economy when what you were supposed to be doing all along was finding ways to combine your gifts and your telepathic presence with other minds so that you could generate a positive reality together. And that's playing with the band. So most of you have been in your own life in an isolated or individuated setting where you're like, okay, like maybe whatever, you're playing the drums or playing the tuba and you sound good, but there's a lot of other parts missing from the song. Got to find the other people to be able to really flesh out the whole entire song. And I don't think that you have to be expected to be a quote unquote one man band, even though I am. Like I do everything. And that's why I'm very self-contained. And if there were no one else in the world, like I would be okay with that. And I don't want that to sound wrong, but like if I woke up in the world and it was like, oh, like all everyone else has disappeared. Now it's just me and my dog. Like I would be really okay with that. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely because I'm like, well, I have lots of paintings that I have to get done and a lot of other important stuff. So, and again, I don't want that to come across in the wrong way, but some people are able to play every instrument and be self-sufficient in that way. And some people aren't. And that's very, very fair. And you should have community around you. Like if you are very good at playing the tuba, but not the electric guitar, you should have people around you who play their unique qualities. This is like cell specialization in your body, where, of course, I always use the example, like you have a heart cell and you have a tooth cell, and these are two completely separate functions in the body, and you should have that beautiful level of individuation. So you shouldn't have to be always think of yourself as having to do everything or be interchangeable or wear every hat. I am built for this. I have a lot of things I have to do. So that's why I'm very, multifaceted, or the Swiss Army knife of capabilities here. But no, you deserve the capability to be able to be super specialized and to really master what you do. And then you live in community where other people do other things. And then you share your talents together. And that might sound facile. And like I'm talking to kindergartners, but I'm really talking about reality creation. Like in reality creation, I would be very happy if it was like, all right, fine, like I'll create reality. I have lots of great ideas. But also, I am willing to collaborate with others, even though I don't require others. But I like to play music with others, and I think that would be nice. But they have to be good musicians. And that is why I'm configured so that if I don't find other good minds and good musicians to collaborate with, I can do it on my own. But, and I invite you to be a part of my band if you're a good musician. And that, what does that mean? You're not a pathogen. You are playing music that is not pathogenic, and it's the opposite of pathogenic and is life affirming. So just being able to make that distinction is huge, because there are a lot of very, when I say facile, I mean like simplistic and erroneous misinterpretations of what is spiritual goodness and how should people act in the world. And there's been too much accommodation of evil out of these worldviews or thought forms. And it's essential to set boundaries against evil. And when I say that, sometimes the reaction is to project evil upon me, because I'm not a spiritual teacher that says like nonviolence and passivity is the way. I'm actually a teacher that says no, engagement and occasional violence is the way. And so then you're like, Aurora, you can't say that. And the FBI is listening. And now they know that you're advocating for violence. And I'm like, hey, all right, this is all just a book club. First of all, don't call the FBI. And what I'm advocating for is a restoration of the primal human, in order to be very, very wonderfully clear. I advocate for a restoration of the primal human because the prescriptions against violence that have been placed in this world, largely from the Christian religion, but from some other religions and spiritual traditions too, they have neutered the good people, and there's still been violence in the world. So although like we can use the message of Christianity as an example, and I separate the message of Christianity as it is presented as a form of religion from the wonderful teacher who is here, because we all know that he is different from the way that things have been misinterpreted. But that message is one of passivity and nonviolence, and that if you want to be spiritually successful, that you must be passive and nonviolent. And that those are held up as the ultimate characteristics and the ultimate response to evil in the world. And I take great issue with that. And so as a spiritual teacher, FBI, if you're listening, no, I don't just advocate for random violence. I advocate for the type of primal human connection to life, where when you see evil, you set a boundary and you do not allow it to flourish in your communities. Now, in what is known as the civilized world that you're presently supposedly living in, you do not have vigilante justice, because what you're supposed to do is say, I see evil and I have empowered the police or the FBI to be able to respond to that evil. And so I call the police or I call the FBI, and they're supposed to be non-corrupt. and take care of the evil. And the problem is that they've become corrupt themselves. And so they are not here as effective destroyers of pathogens. They have become pathogenic themselves. So I, as a spiritual teacher, tell you that you cannot rely upon these corrupt externalizations of violence. And that when you outsource violence, it doesn't make you a better person. People in the world that you're coming out of say, I'm a good person. I'm not violent. I just pay the police or the army to do violence for me. And that is not a good thing. But it is a good thing if you need to set boundaries against pathogens. You're like, okay, I don't want to be violent, but I want to pay that guy to be my army guy setting boundaries against pathogens. And then you say, I am outsourcing my need for violence. I'm paying someone to do it. But you can't sit back and say, I am nonviolent. You have whatever benefit and an investment in the concept of violence. If you utilize a police force, if you utilize and empower the FBI, if you utilize and empower a nation state army, and everyone who lives in a quote unquote civilized world right now has that, and so is benefiting from the outsourced violence. But I am not judging you. I think that you should use violence. I think the problem is that the prescription against violence has made you sit back and say, I don't want to do it, but someone else should do it, and they should, do it. Sorry, I can't finish that sentence. So you say, I don't want to do it, but someone else should do it. And like a spiritual person that is like, I just want to meditate. I don't want to have to use violence against other people. But if you have a organization that is a protective organization like a police force, then they're using violence to destroy criminals so that way you can sit quietly and meditate. And that must be recognized. Like, it's very difficult to meditate while you're also like, whatever, like on guard, like you're fending off the evil people while you're also like meditating, but fending them off. Like, this is very, very hard. They're really two very different states of being. That is actually literally what I do all the time, because I'm like the only spiritual teacher who is willing to claim violence and advocate for it. So I don't want to be misperceived by the FBI and other power structures as being like fomenting revolution. I'm not actually encouraging that. But I am encouraging you to use your spiritual gifts for sacred violence. And putting that word sacred in there means divinely directed, very selective, surgical levels of violence. So it's not, okay, let's bring this to more clarity. Some of the spiritual teachers that are here are talking against violence. It's not just against violence, because of course, like, you should be able to defend yourself, but it's using your spiritual gifts for violence. This is the question. Because when we're getting into the hydrogel people and this type of amplification and augmentation, then we're getting into the realm of a spiritual battle between Christ and Antichrist, between the acoustic, non-amplified, and the amplified. This is the question. Are you allowed not only to use violence, but are you allowed to use psychic violence? There are so many things that are folklore and myths that say, if you have your inner eye awakened, and if you use that to be violent against another person, and then you will be somehow, punished by the universe, smacked down from the universe, you have done something wrong. And so that's why a lot of people who are on the spiritual journey, not only are they trained towards passivity, and that they consider that to be a love vibration, but that they are aversion trained. Like, that's when, like you hit an animal, be like, never do this, never do this. They're aversion trained from using their psychic powers for any type of violence. And I want you to be your primal human self and use your psychic powers for violence when it is correct. So the FBI and other five senses organizations in the physical realm should know that I am actually not advocating for you to pick up a physical weapon or anything like that. I'm advocating for you to use your mind and your passions and your spiritual energy for surgical and selective violence against other minds. Because guess what? They are violencing against you. It's a battle of the bands. And they're not just like playing their own music or thinking their own thought forms or just be like, whatever. Even like when kids are stupid and they're like, I'm just going to be punching like this. And if you just happen to stand in front of me while I'm punching like this, then I'm going to punch you. Like they're not even doing that. They're actively punching you in your third eye. Read my comic book. These hydrogel infested like rape gremlins, their job is to destroy and to disrupt the healthy functioning and activity of your third eye. So that's your not only your pineal gland, but a lot of other nerve structures that are in your own brain. So it's different. In the past, it was dark magicians who had elevated nerve plexuses, and they were like, I am better and I think more than the stupid peasantry down there, and I use my mind against them. And the stupid peasants would be like, shoveling manure and be like, I don't know what is going on. I am too stupid and uneducated to even know. Like, I don't bathe. I don't know what's going on, right? But what you have right now is people like me. We are the Christs who have activated inner powers and psychic gifts, and we don't use technology, and we're not transhumanist. And those um, black goo augmentations, they actually slow me down. They actually make my mind worse and less effective in terms of my ability to either be powerful in the world, like create things, or to fight against evil or to violence against someone. And the evil hydrogel people they're not very creative. They're not very intellectually gifted. What they do is attempt to prey upon and hunt those of us who are divinely connected and intellectually gifted. And again, this is a modern retelling or a grandfathered in continuation of the former posture of the dark magicians, which was always to assault Christs. The dark magicians always created these power structures that were about creating events that would take people who are great away from their greatness, or to use pure math, to take people from being on their timeline of greatness and turn them to the side. Or you're like this, but your chakra gets turned to the side. That is dark magic. And that ability to do that is everything that you need to fight against. And you don't need to fight against it by being like this. Oh, well, a spiritual teacher tells me I'm not allowed to do anything with my psychic gifts. I've just been given all of these psychic gifts, a Swiss Army knife of tools, but I'm not allowed to use it. I'd better just sit quietly and allow evil to run rampant in the world. That is definitely opposite talk. That is not what you should do. You should definitely know that you were given these tools in your higher capabilities and your higher faculties so that you could use them to confront evil, not to sit passively. That is really, really important. You have been given, like, I have a pencil. This is made for writing stuff and drawing stuff. This is not made for just sitting there and doing nothing and looking at it with. So a huge recalibration is needed for each one of you who are good people in thinking about how do you use your mind and what do you use your mind for. So when I wrote these notes for this particular lesson, not 15, over 10 years ago, because it's less than 15, that's why I wanted to say 15 years ago. Of course, we're in a different level of reality, and your priorities could be different then in terms of what do you need to do with your mind? Like you're coming of age, you're coming into your powers, you're like, oh, my mind is powerful. And not only my mind, like my intellect or my language structure, but like my real mind. And I'm talking about how you manifest, talking about your consciousness and your true mind and your true insight. And that is powerful. And 10 years ago, you could have been exploring all sorts of different things that you wanted to make happen in the world. Right now, the most important thing that you can do to make happen in the world is to get rid of this stuff. Because if you don't get rid of this stuff, it has a very, very overt intention to enslave your mind and to make it so that you cannot think with your own thoughts anymore. That is the worst prison. It's the worst thing that can happen to a person, the worst form of imprisonment. And it is a direct analog to what is happening or is imperiled to happen at the end of Atlantis, where I've told you many times they erected an artificial Merkaba that destroyed people's minds and held them in a stasis field. So you couldn't even think the thought, maybe I'm a mind slave. You couldn't even stop and think about whether you are enslaved. So what it did, that stasis field back then, if you can imagine your inner eye is like an eyeball, and it would move people's eyeballs for you. Instead of your willpower thinking the way you want to think, it would be like, think this over here. Now think this over here. Now think this over here. And if you can do that, you can pretty much, control a lot of reality, control the social aspect of reality. You don't control the laws of physics, but you control people's minds and views of the world. And people are making the world. So back then, we were a lot more direct and a lot more, I would say, juicily empowered, like juicy. You know what I mean? Like fruits that have good juices in them. Everything's all dried out right now. But back then, it used to be like, yeah, like you think a little thought and something just comes forward from it. And if we are influenced in Atlantis by this artificial Merkaba technological frequency thing, it has a big impact on the world that we create. It's like if you affect a seed, you affect the plant that grows from that seed. So that was a very, very dangerous and perilous moment there. And it mirrors the danger and the peril that you find yourself in right now. You're in planetary ascension, which is a moment where the things that are internal and in a state of potential become externalized and realized into the actual world. And I've told you, don't imagine the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, because of course you will have to deal with it. But also, you're not going to manifest your fears. That's a big lie from the past 5 years. In 2020, that was lied to me many times. They're like, oh, you're just manifesting your own fears. So I want you all to know this doo-doo is not the manifestation of my fears. That is blame the victim crapola. All of this stuff came out of the mind of actually a very small group of very pathogenic people. So if you have billions of people in the world, those things that are currently hurting you in the world and diminishing your spiritual freedom really only came out of the minds of, let's say, 1,000, a thousand of your worst minds, please. Like the worst 1,000 evil minds on your world. And so they would be like software programmers and some biologists and some evil madmen. I hope I've characterized this correctly, but the OS hell, the thing that I write about in my comic book, that largely came out of the mind of one guy that I call the founder in my sharing about him. I don't know his physical name, but he is not in reality anymore. But he was one of the main architects or engineers of the hydrogel system that you're in the Battle of the Bands with. And the system very much, it has the flavor of and the evidence of that guy's personality and who he was. And it's basically an amplification of his mind and key point of his worldview. So think about like Charles Darwin had a worldview that was about like dog eat dog, the competition in natural dynamics and human dynamics and animalistic dynamics. Because he came from an island where there weren't that many resources, and it was very dog eat dog in that time, and everybody fought with each other in that. The island was named England, and he created a worldview out of his upbringing and his community, and then he amplified that worldview out to the rest of the world. And everyone else was like, I now think like Charles Darwin, and I now look at the world as a place where everything is in competition with everything else, and everything is fighting with everything else. It's not truthful. It is not truthful. There's actually an enormous amount of cooperation and collaboration that is happening in nature to sustain life. And if you're coming at this from Charles Darwin's flawed sociological, and what I call sociology and psychology soft sciences, I am not being benevolent. I'm like, those are not real sciences. They're the soft sciences. They are not accurate. Science is supposed to be accurate. Math is supposed to be accurate. These are like the biggest, they are pseudoscience at best. So you have a pseudoscience guy in the 1800s coming up with his pseudoscientific viewpoint and then spreading that outward to everyone else. And then everyone looks at the world as if everything is dog eat dog. And then it takes a huge backpedaling and recalibration to tell people, oh no, that guy was wrong. And he was ethnocentric, didn't know shit. Sorry, kids. And it turns out that there's a lot of collaboration that is happening. So Charles Darwin also evidenced the mind state of the pathogenic invader, the predator mind, Like I read to you my wonderful quote from Active Side of Infinity from Carlos Castaneda, talking about the predator. Hold on, drink. It's a competitive mind because it feels that there's always not enough resources. It's resource insecurity. There's not enough. And also, it's competitive because there's all of these predators that are all trying to get energy or loosh or life force from those of us that have it. Snap. And there's never enough because the addictive nature of their personality is I'm always going to need more. There's never enough. Get more in the future. It's not like, oh, we've had enough and now we're full and we never have to parasite off of anyone else again. No. So it's never enough because of not only the addictive mind, but because it is a very inefficient system. And the inefficient system bleeds energy. I've told you this before. If you hear loud motorcycles going down the road and it's someone with a Harley Davidson motorcycle and they're a tough guy and their engine goes vroom, 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 and it's very loud, you can say, your engine is extremely inefficient. No, don't do this because they will be mad at you. But I'm joking. But your engine is extremely inefficient. The thrust is being wasted as auditory sound waves. But it's truthful. A perfectly efficient motor or engine would be completely silent, would not evidence friction, and would certainly not emit a lot of energy as sound waves. So, um, these inefficient systems that are these evil and satanic systems are parasitic and addiction maniacal, focused on addiction qualities because they're so inefficient that they always need more. They always need more. Like it should be like you put in a tiny amount and then that keeps the system running for whatever 13 billion years, but instead you put in a lot and that keeps the system running for like a year. And then they're like, okay, time to go consume another planet, time to go create more huge distress in the fabric of space-time. And it's a mania because it's a psychosis. It's very disconnected from reality because you can't do that. Like if you do that, then you end up not having a reality. And that's the end result when we're talking about battle of the bands. Like this is an important battle because we want to have a reality. The things that we fight against, from the dark magicians who hijack and manipulate reality, it's not natural, like their form of magic, but then also the technologists who are just have a different belief system and worldview who also attempt to hijack and manipulate reality. All of these guys, first of all, they are pathogens. They don't actually belong in reality. So we have to talk about the pooties. And I don't know if Pedro is here today. He had asked me about like what's the difference between pooties and demons. And we do have to talk about that because in your chakras, it's not just something that is external, like you're in the perfect alignment here, and then like a baseball hits against your windshield of your chakras and is like, now you're to the side. It is actually something internal. It's in the chakras. It's in the membrane of death over here. So it's positive for you to know that it is something internal and not something external because things that are internal are within your control. But it's also important for you to know that just because something is inside of you does not mean that it is self or that you should identify with it as self. So just because pathogens are in my house, crawling on my dishes, does not mean that they belong in my house. I'm like, no, my food belongs in my house, my dishes belong in my house, but the pathogens do not belong in my house. I kill them with soap and water. And that is not a maniacal, whatever, Genghis Khan, whatever your worst mass murderers. I'm not like, die, microbes die. I'm like, hooray, I'm doing the dishes. Do you understand? So your planet needs to be cleaned of pathogens. Those pathogens have become normalized into the power structures of the world. And some of them might even be you might be in relationships with them in terms of your business relationships or who you purchase things from or who you work for or what nation states you live in. They're in your life and it's essential to fight against them. Those power structures have given rise to this stuff. And this stuff is a different level of direct pathogenic assault. It's not just a king sitting on a throne somewhere making an edict or a pronouncement that harms you in your life. These are actual walking around people with neural amplification structures around their pineal gland and around their mind, and they use their mind to hurt others. So back to the pronouncements against violence. The Christian religion basically says, this is the Prince of Peace, and he says, don't fight anymore. If you're good, don't fight anymore. And a lot of people were like, okay, I'm good. I won't fight anymore. But the bad people said, I'm bad. I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to keep hurting the good people. And the good people are like, what the F are we supposed to do? And the Christian church said, you're supposed to fucking die and then go to Christian heaven. And that's not a good proposal at all. Do you understand? This did not take away violence. So if you want to say, okay, if you know that cutting off cats' testicles makes them fight less, then you're like, we are going to cut off all of the cat's testicles, and then we will not have any more cat fights, right? Except they didn't cut off all of the cat's testicles. They just cut off half of the cat's testicles. And then they left the other cats with their full ability to fight. And those are the people that are called evil dark magicians, because they're not trying to be good. They're like, I don't care if Jesus loves me or if I go to fluffy Christian heaven. They don't care. So this was it's a limitation put into your DNA and an indoctrination in your worldview that says, if you want to be accepted by Christ and if you want to be in Christian heaven, then you have to be this passive, nonviolent type of victim or martyr. And the other people who are running around being violent, like, let them be violent against you, and they just won't be in the club. And then you'll be in heaven laughing, and then they'll be in hell sad. And that's a terrible proposal. None of that works at all. That is a very, very flawed proposal. And that's been going on for 2,000 years. And that's, I would even say, insane. And you are doing your spiritual journey right now at the end of that 2,000-year long period of insanity. And there are a lot of modern teachers who will tell you, don't use your psychic powers for spiritual violence. Even while hydrogel, AI networked Samsung soldiers are frying people's brains with their brains, but they're going to tell you, no, just let your brain be fried, and someone else, don't be violent against them. And what this paradigm really does, I didn't say someone else is going to fix it, but basically just the sense of like, don't do anything. So in the Christian religion, the cops, the law enforcement, who do you call? Not Ghostbusters, but Jesus. Jesus comes in at the end with a giant sword kicking ass and is like, smiting evil. But so for 2,000 years, everyone has been like, hey, be passive. Just let yourself be a martyr. One day Jesus is going to come and he is going to kick ass around here. That is exactly the same as relying upon the army or the FBI or the police to protect you. You are not nonviolent. You actually are violent, but you are outsourcing your violence to the ultimate brute squad, who in this mental, mythological, or ideological structure is Jesus. And you should do it. You should do it. You should kick ass. Absolutely. So it's a disempowerment structure, and I'm here to break that disempowerment structure and to restore you to your feral state, because the evil ones in your world have not been neutered, and they are overtly evil, and now they have been technologically amplified, and they run around being psychically violent against you. And there is not a requirement for you to prevent yourself from being psychically violent back to them. That actually does not protect you or protect the fabric of space-time at all. You must not be a psychic martyr, allowing them to burn your brain and not doing anything about it, or not shooting back to them, or not using your divinely powered gifts to respond to that in some way. That is wrong. Just because, so they use technology and they are fucking evil and they are very violent and have no value system and look at everyone as something to prey upon and to destroy, to characterize them. And you are good people. And you're like, well, I don't want to hurt another person. They're trying to kill you. They're trying to give you a stroke and melt your brain. They're not a good person. And the point is, they don't like come into your house with a knife and try to stab it in your brain. They do it remotely. They do it through not only frequency-based technology, which would be low Earth orbit satellites or different towers and repeaters, or Bluetooth and other signal carriers in your home, they do it with their mind. So their mind is the Wi-Fi router. It's in their bodies. And it is hugely corrosive. So you guys, I'm sure, have seen, I'm sure, at some point in your community, like here's a smart meter outside, which is essentially like a Wi-Fi router on the outside of people's houses. And then if there's a tree next to it, like right next to where the smart meter is, it's brown. Like the tree is fried, and then this part might still be alive over here. Like having an implant in your brain that is like a smart meter emitting those jagged frequencies all the time, like that melts your cellular structure. It melts your fucking brain. It melts the cellular structure. It does not amplify it. So like Elon Musk has that in his brain. A lot of the people at Tesla who work for him have that in their brain. Fictionally, of course. I'm just talking about my book club. But they do not have a good prognosis because that stuff doesn't really help their bodies to stay alive and thrive. And it's exactly like, what if you got to test the car? And it's like, it's terrible frequency soup. Like you get inside of there and your body's getting inflamed and you can't have good digestion, your brain doesn't function correctly. And it's like that. It's just exactly that. Products are made by corporations all the time that are not positive for the human body, that are expensive, both in your currency and in your health. And then corporations all the time do not take responsibility for the massively bad impact that they have on people's health. Just think about all the products that have ever been made that were like questionable. The company got rich, but they made something that ended up making people get sick or get cancer afterwards. Okay. Corporations have zero loyalty to their customers. They're supposed to have loyalty to their customers, but they do not. Because here's the thing. So we want to talk about corporations as, dead things like, I would say necro. I know what the word is for like the Walking Dead, but like some kind of dead entity that is not really alive. So corporations have our dead entity that's not really alive, but they are not going according to the pure practices of capitalism. They are not creating products and completely sustained by their clients or customers. Corporations suckle at the booby of the government, and they get all of that sweet tax breaks, tax write-off subsidies, government contracts, and public-private partnerships. So corporations are parasitic, and they are not acting according to the statutes of traditional capitalism or how you run when you run a small business. So like, let's say you're a small business person and you're going to make pies and sell them at the farmer's market. You need to make sure that you buy your materials and add in the cost of your labor and then sell your pies at a profit and then take your profits and use it to buy more materials so you can keep going. And you know that if you don't sell your pies, or if you don't price your pies correctly, or if you don't make enough money by selling your pies, that you won't be able to afford blueberries and sugar and all the things that you need to do to make your pies, right? That's not how any of these corporations work. They do not have to care about selling their pies. Pies become mandatory. Mandated pies. You will now insert your mandated pies into your skin today, and the corporation will make a lot of money by people eating these mandated pies. They will be shoved up your nose or put into your bloodstream. Like there's a lot of that. And other forms of hidden subsidies, like even just think about soft drink company, Coca-Cola. It is not pure consumer sentiment that sustains that company, although at one point it was a popular drink, but now it is largely food subsidies in the food stamps or the SNAP programs that people are using those government support structures to be able to purchase soda when if they didn't have those support structures, like they would just drink water. And so it is consumer driven, but it's consumer sentiment that is sustained by artificial investments from the government. So the government is essentially giving out soda tokens so that people can go and buy soda that they wouldn't otherwise purchase or be able to afford. And please don't like paint your paintbrush on me about like some kind of conservative psyop propaganda or anything like that. Like what should people be, I'm not allowed to be in people's grocery carts of what they should be buying. Like it's like, no, like your government is subsidizing junk food companies and exploiting the health and lack of intelligence of like the most vulnerable levels of your society. Like, this is not okay. And what I'm talking about is not just like some conservative talking point, and everybody needs to get that out of their mind. Everybody needs to get out of their mind the sense that there are certain things that people say that are not valid social critiques, but are instead just talking points of a particular regime or something like that. Like, no, talking sensibly, and everybody needs to be able to hear when something is simply sensible. So you should not have huge government subsidies of some of these corporations that couldn't actually be a viable business without the government. Like, would Coca-Cola actually still be a popular drink? How about McDonald's? This is an excellent example. Nobody really eats McDonald's anymore, but it is somehow subsidized and continues to be in existence when most people have grown beyond the need or desire to expose themselves to those horrible poisons. So in traditional capitalism, something becomes a business, it creates a product, it has some amount of success, it grows and expands. And then when people don't like it anymore, it collapses inward. Like, nobody is buying whatever wingtip shoes anymore. Like, that's from the 1920s. The wingtip shoe manufacturers all went out of business because no one was wearing them anymore. But what if the government decided, I'm going to buy wingtip shoes for all of the soldiers from now on? And then you would still have those manufacturers doing what they need to do. So please comprehend and please know that these very, very large corporations, like Amazon is a good one, because their cloud system is totally subsidized by the CIA. So Amazon is not just getting rich by being an online marketplace where you can buy your embroidery thread or other necessary items and have them shipped directly to your front door. Please don't judge me. I bought my embroidery thread on Amazon because I needed it fast and shipped to my front door. But Amazon is really being subsidized by its telecommunication and cloud contracts with CIA, and also with the data and surveillance and invasive I don't have the word for it, but invasive selling invasive access non-consensually as about you as a consumer, not only to other corporations, but also to governments. So that all of that is subsidizing these corporations. And I hear people, because I'm telepathic in my mind, while you're listening to this, you're totally nodding internally. You're like, yup, Aurora. When there is no product, or when the product seems too inexpensive, you are the product. And then you start to understand that too. So let's talk about Samsung, like as a company. You know, there are all now these very inexpensive flat screen TVs where they used to be thousands of dollars, and now they might be whatever, $300, and then they're on sale with all these extra coupons from the big electronic stores. And you wonder, like, how can they have brought down the cost of this so much? How can a company make money by selling this big giant TV for like whatever, $300? Like, it's got to cost more that for them to make it than they are selling it for. And the answer is because when you allow one of these surveillance devices to come into your home, that the data and the other access that it gives is a valuable form of commerce that that company is actually using to subsidize its material output. It is not about the TV. It is about something else other than the TV. So you must be extremely skeptical about any of these supposedly affordable things that are coming into your world. And also think about whatever the doorbells that have a camera and they surveil your entire neighborhood. And you are actually paying for that. And then also the data that is collected from that is valuable. And the company is able to subsidize the cost of creating this system by the value of what they are getting from it. So, okay, I don't need to beat that horse to a death. Like, you guys already know about all of that stuff. And this is what you're fighting against. Okay, I'm gonna collect my thoughts. So Pedro says he's right here. So let's do this. What is the difference between demons and putis? Demons, I would define as consciousnesses or whatever, creatures or whatever, that never had a physical form. This is a real thing. They are frequency, incoherent, false light creatures, because your chakras are coherent, real light creatures. And the false light creatures have never successfully created a body. It would be the example of like the brown dwarf that has been going through our solar system for a certain amount of time, that has these dead presences on there where it's like they never even really became a person. Like, imagine like a miscarriage, like potential for life that never even really got a chance to become life because its music is so bad and so disharmonic, it cannot be contained in flesh. So you guys have to comprehend this. The patterns of music that allow consciousness to be contained in flesh and then allow that flesh to continue onward through time are very specific. You have to play good music and be in love with life in order to be here. And when these hydrogel soldiers and other people put this technology into them in an effort to augment or artificially sustain or like propel them through time, sustain their life or propel them through time, it is always the opposite. It's not life support and it's not life augmentation. It makes their bodies worse and weaker and it makes their lives shorter. So to synopsize that, the path to eternal life does not and cannot contain the implantations of these corrosive technologies. It is totally a dead end. And just because some of these very erroneous minds saw it in a future where, oh, well, everybody in the future has these implants and they're walking around and they seem fine, so we should definitely do it now. That is bad reasoning. And if you do that, then you end up like whatever I want to say, going down the cosmic toilet. Your life is going down the toilet, going down the cosmic toilet. And as you're swirling down, you're like, but wait, I saw it in the future and it's not supposed to happen. Ah! And like, sorry, you saw a different future, and this is what actually happens. So the future that they saw, it's questionable about whether it actually really exists. But please know, like, false advertising is a thing. Think about in the Silicon Valley culture. There's this particular founder, not the one in my comic book, but a woman named Elizabeth Holmes. And she's presently in prison because she had a fraudulent startup where she was saying to everyone that it was a special blood scanning thing. And it was super affordable. And you could scan people's blood and find out about what their diseases were or what they needed to do to stay healthy. And it was going to be cheap and available and revolutionize the world. And all of these magical catchwords and phrases. I'm doing this like that meme. She's like, blood, all right? She's like doing the meme. But no, it was turned out to be totally fraudulent. Huge promises. And huge promises were done blithely over cocktails. Like, we're like holding a cocktail here and like, and we're going to do this and we're going to do this, wave my diamonds at you, bada bing, bada boom, we've got a business. And people are like, great, here's money, take my money, sign me up. And so it's a charisma. A lot of these software companies are founded on charisma, not on actual viable software. And then it turns out that they are bullshitters, that they don't have it. But when they're talking to you over cocktails, they're like, it's gonna happen. They believe it. They believe their own hype. They believe their own lies. But deep down, they know that they're lying. And then at a certain point, everybody gets rug pulled. And that's when you find out like, oh, like that girl was lying. Like they don't have this technology to scan your blood. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And you definitely wasted your money. And that's why she's in prison now. Okay. So that's a good example of it because they actually found out that she was, evil and sent her to prison. But in a lot of these companies, like you haven't found out yet that it's totally a lie. Let me drink tea. Tesla is a great example of that. People still believe in this guy and his Neuralink. Like you cannot believe in that. So first of all, the hydrogel stuff that exists is already far more advanced than what the admitted to Neuralink stuff is. But the Neuralink is going to be another one of these failed, ridiculous, redonkulous disappointment projects that doesn't actually work very effectively at all. Here's an example of a failed Elon Musk project. One day, Elon Musk is sitting in traffic with his nerve plexus a pulsing, and he says, "I'm an important person. Important people like me. I've been told since my birth, I should not be sitting in traffic. I know what I'll do. I'm going to start the Boring Company." And so this is the myth or the legend. He starts the Boring Company to be able to bore holes underneath the city and make alternative ways. The initial proposal. So he did this in Las Vegas, and it is currently known as the Loop, which is like a circuit, a networked circuit, not a whole it's basically one circle, not a whole big giant thing. But he presented the project as that he's going to make this whole alternative high speed. It was going to run at 155 miles per hour. It was supposed to be totally automated with the automated Teslas in there, and supposed to connect all of these points within the city underneath Las Vegas. And instead, what you have is one loop that is just like a circular track, and it is cars that are driven by people. And there's one car every 20 minutes. You have to kind of like wait until the next car comes along. And it has to be a car with a driver. It can't be autonomous, even though you're just going through this boring tunnel, because at a certain point, it does come out into the street and you mingle with regular traffic, and you have to be able to deal with regular traffic and pedestrians. It's beyond what automated can do. And the best part is it runs at a very, very impressive 35 miles an hour, right? And it only has two stations, and you can't really get anywhere with it, but it is very unimpressive. So you're starting to see the pattern here. A rich person who's been told since birth that they're special and that they should be, other people should be listening to them, and that they should be controlling vast amounts of resources. It's a lie, but it is a mental brain structure. And then that is amplifying their own natural or innate gifts. And then add money to that. Money is the amplifier of bad ideas. This was a bad idea. All right. And they threw money at it. And then what happened? It didn't actually become the vaunted expectation of how it was initially described. It's total rug pull, it's total disappointment. So I'm sure he spent all of that money. We don't know if the money was misappropriated or embezzled towards a different project, and if this was just a beard, like, be like, yeah, like we're really spending it on this dinky tunnel when we're actually spending it on something else. Like that might be part of what's going on. But from the conventional viewpoint, it looks like a very disappointed and failed project, a failed infrastructure project created by a person who is painfully wealthy and has zero qualms about wasting their energy, money, and like civic responsibility in how they are affecting reality. This is a perfect example of what these type of technologists do. So to clarify, talk a good game. They often believe their own hype because they've been trained to since birth, or they've been indoctrinated and surrounded by psychopaths. Sometimes also drugs. Drugs really amplify this. A lot of these Silicon Valley people take cocaine, which is like an ego magnifier, and also they're into Special K and some of these other like hallucinogens. And they go to Burning Man and stuff like that. So please know that drugs also amplify a lot of bad ideas. And then they never actually come through. Sometimes the projects are not even completed. They're just a complete money pit, money going in and no project process actually coming out. And sometimes they are only created, but at a much smaller magnitude. And if you had said like, well, I'd like to build this small dinky tunnel and we're going to run cars through there at 35 miles an hour, he would have been laughed away. They would have said like, no, like that is stupid. We're not going to spend billions of dollars on that. Like nobody needs that. Get out of my face. But they didn't say that. They said, we're going to scan your blood and keep you young for forever, or we're going to create this 155 miles per hour underground tunnel system. That is exactly what is happening with the hydrogels. The software engineers from the future were like, we are going to build you a tunnel that interconnects everything, and you're going to go at 155 miles per hour. And instead, what they got was a dinky tunnel that like doesn't do shit, and it fries your brain while you're trying to amplify your psychic powers. Okay. So that's actually very good news for all of you that aren't willingly engaged and filled with the hydrogel technology, because these other guys, they're dropping like flies. Like it's very corrosive to them. Oh, so I have to finish the answer to Pedro, but here's another thing. Pedro says, about the classes from lesson 18 and 19, they're scheduled for the 24th and 31st. Are you going to delay them or not? Yes, I must. Thank you for being such an excellent student and for asking me about that. I should have done some housekeeping earlier in the recording of this video because I've got my travel plans for going to Sedona for my New Year's Eve Flying Rainbow Lasagna event, and because we've got Christmas, holidays, and other things like that, and because lesson 18 is such a big marathon lesson that I prepare for it. I train for that like a marathon. I'm gonna have to carbo load day before, I got to make sure because we're going to walk on the treadmill for like 6 hours on that day. Oh, so what I'm being silly right now, and I'm making the most ridiculous faces, looking at my calendar so that way I can see. Yes, so Wednesday the 24th is Christmas Eve, and I will definitely be preparing for my retreat by that week. And then the next week is the week of my actual retreat. So the 17th, that is 2 weeks from now. So we are going to have class next week. Sorry, again, I know I make crazy faces to be able to squint at the screen. Next week and the week after. Okay, we will do those two lessons, and then everyone's going to have a nice little Christmas holiday break and hopefully be super mellow. And then we will reassemble in January and we'll do a big long marathon presentation of galactic history and lesson 18. And then we'll also do completion of the semester. It's usually flying rainbow lasagna in the future. So of course I will have to customize that to when we actually are there in time. And then what I'm planning on doing is completing the lessons for full spectrum humans semester, do a 4-week presentation of Path of Light. If people are new, if they haven't done Path of Light, it's really, really good. It's really abstract and I think very uplifting and positive. And then I'll restart lessons probably in either February or March. Okay, good. So thank you for asking about that. Okay, good. And Pedro goes on to say, I asked for a day vacation for lesson 18, so it helps to know the date of that lesson. I'll figure it out on the calendar and I'll send you a notification. And I love that you're such an engaged student that you want to make sure that you take time off from work to be able to be here. I am really genuinely so gratified that you can prioritize being in class in order to do that. Thank you very, very much, Pedro. So to finish the answer that I was trying to give, and thank you for your patience when you guys either email me or ask me questions, and sometimes it takes me a long time to answer. Demons are never was. They never were alive. They never even had good enough music to have cellular cohesion to be in the world. That's how bad they are. Their music is so bad they can't even like make a body and be a baby. As opposed to the Putis, who actually had physical bodies and physical presences at some point. And I don't know exactly when or where they became like so disassociated, disembodied, and unnatural. It's a very you're encountering them at the end of a torturously long series of de-evolutionary events that they experienced as consciousness. So they're like going to entropy, but they are going like so painfully slow band-aid for them. And now they are stuck on the membrane of death. Because remember, if you went to the membrane of death, you would not be stuck there. You would be like, oh, like I'm dead. Here's my clipboard. Here's everything I did wrong. Get back in there and try better. Why are these technologists who built a bad time machine stuck on the membrane of death? And if they are stuck on the membrane of death, why, in what way can they be empowered, like the predators, the peanut gallery, speaking to you from the membrane of death and then having an influence on your life? That should never happen. If you are so erroneous that you play bad music, that you either can't get born or you have died, you should keep your bad music to yourself. You should keep your bad thoughts to yourself. You should not have an impact upon the living. And so what you're looking at are genetic tendencies. I call this the time distortion society instead of like the adjustment bureau. In the adjustment bureau, the guys wear these special fedora hats and they run around through time like fixing things and making things better. And it can be the smallest thing where like maybe they just move a pencil like 1 foot and then they're done, and that changes the timeline completely and everything gets in a different direction. But this is like the anti-adjustment bureau, where there are negative entity presences that are bouncing themselves down the DNA timeline, riding along with or hijacking the daily experience of those of us who are alive. And these are known as demons, like family demons, like alcoholism. One guy, however many thousands of years ago or in a different reality, is an alcoholic. You are not even an alcoholic, but he is sending his time tendrils through your body and through your DNA and making you crave alcohol. And it's not you. You don't even want it, but you have to resist it. And same thing with eating disorder. Eating disorder is not you. There is some like old, gross old lady from however many, whatever, like 500 years ago. And she is an unrestful soul. And she is sticking her mind and her time tendrils down through your DNA, and you're feeling it in your own body. And then you're looking at your own body in disgust and thinking that you have to starve yourself when it's not you. The disgust is actually coming from this time invader that is not really you. And this is the ultimate occult knowledge. It is this time society that is kind of like the hidden puppeteers manipulating human reality and feeling like they are immortals, but they are not immortals. They are just ones who have escaped retribution for a brief amount of time. They have not faced the full responsibility of their negative actions. And their negative actions are so offensive to time, they're going to go like immediately to entropy. Like there's no question. It's like, imagine a clipboard that's like this fat, like a book, all red X. It's like, you got a lot of mistakes here, kid. Like you're going to entropy. There's no fixing of this. Yeah, it's totally, so it's different than demonic because demonic possession would be, here's a crazy crapped up thought form that never could get born. But these are people that were somehow born unresolved, sometimes died horribly, but sometimes just died weirdly using technology and rituals and crazy crap, and then are in this indeterminate state and projecting themselves forward from the past. And you need to close those portals. Imagine those DNA portals are like a door, and the door of either alcoholism or eating disorders, like knock, 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 like I'd like to come in, or like your whole entire door is open and they're just waltzing right in. Just slam the door. Like, get out of my fucking face. Like, you don't belong here. And recognize that it's not you. That's why I don't agree with a lot of the shadow work that says, like, no, you must integrate those things. And if you resist them, they will persist. I'm like, no, you need to send them out of you. And what I do in my capacitation is to close all of those genetic portals so that that way, not only do you slam the door on them and they're not coming inside of you, but they're not coming inside of anyone because they are inherently flawed. And they need to face the giant red clipboard, the telephone book thick. Does anybody know what a telephone book is anymore? Giant file of all the things that they have done wrong and be held accountable for that. So this evil time society, they're the ones who have actually been influencing the occult society who live in your world, people like King Charles, and even scientists and technologists to create the portal opening substances and frequency weapons in your world. Chemicals and CERN. These things destroy DNA and create open portals. I also have to warn everyone against whatever they're doing at the airport right now. Wait, let me hydrate, talk about the airport. So I don't fly. I haven't flown in a long time. I mean, like I fly like a lasagna. I don't fly in a metal tube because I'm very skeptical of whatever they're doing at the airports. The past couple of sessions that I've done with some people, I'm sensing their DNA is like dehydrated and fractured. And I asked some people, because I'm doing like intuitive work. I'm not a medical scientist or a doctor at all. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, did you go to the airport recently? And they're like, yeah, they went to the airport and there's some kind of a thing. There's this new body scanner. Like you stand there and it kind of goes all around you and it does some kind of a scan. So my big information to all of you is you have to avoid those scanners. They are DNA scatterers. They kind of dehydrate the DNA and break it up into pieces. And then afterwards, the body is trying very, very hard to put the puzzles back together and to reassemble the pieces. But during that time of brokenness, it's a opening of portals. And this is very much for negative entity influence and negative entity inhabitation and also life disruption. Another woman that I know had been through the airport to go on a particular journey and she got scanned and she said that she didn't feel right for 3 or 4 days and that her legs felt particularly disrupted. And she had to go to a place in nature, put her legs in the stream of water and kind of like get herself back together. So it is possible, of course, to restore yourself, but don't subject yourself to these things because these are you're working on 2 different levels of reality. Like they're not going to come forward and say, hello, traveler, please step into my DNA torture device. Like they're not going to say that, but the people that make it know that it is a DNA torture device. But the people that operate it on the human to human level do not know and do not care to know, and that they're the ignorant and harmful soldiers of a larger agenda. So it is up to you to refuse to be scanned in that way. Always opt out. And the other thing is they're putting some kind of false light into people's eyes at the airport now. That is some kind of either a facial scan or a bright light that they shine in your eyes, like whatever it is, don't let it happen. So if you cannot opt out and they say like, go stand here and there will be a light that shine in your eyes, just keep your eyes down. Look down at the ground. Do not look at the light. Do not look at the camera if they're going to take a picture of your face. Okay. And I know this because people after, like they're coming to me for a clearing, like an energy clearing. And before I even know what they've been traveling or something like that, I'm like, what is going on with this person? And then I find out, oh, it's from airport stuff. Okay. So you got to protect yourself. Why do they do this? They don't just do it to make sure that you're not, whatever, carrying a switchblade so you can hijack the airport. Like, that's ridiculous. No one is doing that. They do this because they want to break your DNA and then be able to have these anti-time adjustment bureau fuck faces come inside of your body. And they should not be inside of your body. It's a huge violation. Avril, thank you for being here. Says, I always try to shut down and clear all airport scanners and x-rays before I go through them and shield myself roughly for about 30 minutes from the body and my bags. They're making it almost impossible to opt out now. Unfortunately, I'm so distressed to hear about that because there should be some way for you to be able to say no. And if you can't say no, like that's an assault. And you have to start to consider like, how badly do you want to travel by air? Because the price that you pay in terms of the assault on your DNA is very, very severe. So I have decided that I don't want to be exposed to that at all. And I made a very concerted, I love it when people invite me. I live in a far off land, like come visit me. I'm like, I would love to, girl, but I don't want to get DNA fried and scattered right now. So I'm just going to stay on the continental United States. But even within my own country, it's why I have a car that I can happily drive to places, and I schedule my life so that if I need it, like if I'm going to Sedona, I make sure that I can spend whatever, a day or two driving there and not to do this air travel stuff. So again, for people that are coming to my retreat, of course, I'm going to send out an email, and I don't know if people are watching this far into the video and you will find it, but I'm going to send out a video, an email to everybody who's coming with all of these tips about how to opt out, and so that people can arrive intact and not have to spend several days getting themselves together just to be able to do the DNA dance. So I'll be able to help people getting through the airports, but we really have to start considering whether we want to be subjected to this, because there is an evil agenda. Like this is not, this is very much a concerted effort, a calculated effort, not something that happens by accident. And we just have to recognize that. And in this, I mean, it's spiritual warfare. And so it's essential to be able to fight against it too, like to recognizing it is part of it. Non-participation or saying no thank you is another part of it. But then direct confrontation is another part of it. And I'm happy to say that if you guys feel that it's not your place to do direct confrontation, or if you feel like you're just not strong enough, like if I'm a black belt and you're just starting out in this type of spiritual jujitsu, it's okay for you to say that you need more training or you need to get stronger before you know what you're doing or you know how to do this. It's why I'm here. It is literally why I'm here, to protect the innocent. And it's why I'm somewhat distressed when I encounter the worldview in this world that says that you must be spiritually passive and allow yourself or others to be martyred as the solution. That is not ever a correct message, but if it were ever correct, it is right now largely outdated. That does not reduce war at all. You are being made war upon, but you are not allowed to make war back if you follow those directives. And that doesn't mean that war doesn't exist. It just means it is a one-sided war and that there's unidirectional damage and it's all being done to you. And that is all terrible. So I come upon this world where there are these erroneous, sorry, I'm distracted because of this, worldviews about what it is to be a good person. And they're like, oh, no, don't fight back, be nonviolent, be this and that. And I was worried about the way that I would be perceived and how I bring this message, because I don't want people to be afraid of me or think that I am telling that I'm an evil person myself, that I'm telling you like, no, like use violence, and that would be an evil person telling you like to go off of your spiritual path and not to be what is right for you. I want you to do what is right for you. It is my encouragement for you to act from a state of pure freedom. If your state of pure freedom does not involve violence, or If you need to explore nonviolence as a proposal in the world, you're like, I'm exploring vegetarianism. You're like, nope, I'm vegetarian. I'm nonviolent. I am here to protect you during that level of exploration. Because it's a pretty hard lesson. If you're going to try to explore nonviolence and you got like soul destroyed, be like, I guess that doesn't work. We found out the hard way. But this way you can find out the easy way. I do all of the hard work. I shovel all of the garbage and protect the planet using violence. And then you guys, or whoever has this idea, explores nonviolence. And we still have a world. We don't get destroyed. And then I clear out all the pathogens because I'm using all of the bleach and clearing them all out. And then they're all bye-bye. Then the people who are exploring nonviolence are like, hooray, it worked. I'm like, it worked because I did violence. It worked because I did violence, not because you did nonviolence. And that will be a very positive rug pull because they will still be here to have the cognitive event experience of recognizing that they were wrong. So it's a great learning lesson where you're like, oh, yeah, you definitely should have fought back. Well, you didn't. But Aurora fought back, fictionally, of course. And because of that, you can now have the time to even comprehend your mistake and to consider acting differently in the future. So this is hugely important. Every situation is unique. It's not fair to be able to say, like I tell you, when you eat for the glow, right? You're going to choose which nutrient is right for you in that moment. When you are divinely aligned, when you're an ascended master, you do the things that are right for you based on your own inner prompting. And it's always jazz. It is always an improvisation and it is always new in the moment. You can't be like, well, I always do this. You have to say, what is right in this moment? And when you close the door on the opportunity to use your gifts or your psychic capacity for violence, it means that there are a lot of things that you can't do and you might have to do them. These are the sacred cows. You have to poke all of your sacred cows. To really ascend, you have to reassess all of your basic presumptions at the foundation of what you think is right in the world and reassess them, maybe not throw them all out, but really determine whether they're right and whether they're always right and be willing to go against them if you have to in certain circumstances. And I am here in this time and place, and I've had many experiences or I have many parallel experiences in many different places. And in this circumstance, violence is definitely necessary and merited. And you can do it from the very no nonsense beginning level of your red chakra. Your red chakra is your I am presence, and it says like you're allowed to be in the world. This is part of the music that you play when you are an organism in the world. And your red chakra says that you're allowed to protect and defend yourself. That's absolutely it's a non-issue. It is what insects are doing. It is what pathogens are doing. It is what bacteria are doing. They are all working to protect themselves and working for their own self-interest and working to be alive in the world. If something or someone attacks you on that basic level of trying to take away your life or your presence, you are allowed to fight back. That's it. In fact, you're allowed to anticipate. Once you raise your energy up to your higher faculties and you can anticipate the future, you're like, that is a pathogen that is gonna try to take my life away from me at some point. I don't have to wait until they try to do it. I can do something about that right now. You can do pre-Windex, clean that mess up before it even comes into existence. This is not only like a privilege or a possibility, it's a mandate. When you are given these gifts and these tools with your mind and with your higher faculties, you are not given them so that they will stay unused in your closet or in your arsenal or whatever, and you will do nothing. They're given to you so that you will use them. It's like here's a paintbrush, like go paint something with it. Here is your mind. Go and use it. You're supposed to use it and you're supposed to use it well. And I'm really here with the message to be able to tell you that sometimes you have to use psychic violence and that there is not something wrong with that. And when I say that, I'm very aware that people could wildly misinterpret me and project upon me and say that I'm not a good spiritual leader or teacher for telling you that, and look to others who have come in the past. Like, maybe that was what was right for them at that point, but that is not what is right for you at this point. That is actually the kindest and nicest way that I can say that because I respect other people who have been here in the past. Jesus is a great man, definitely. But the way that the church has twisted his message, very wrong. And the way that that twisted message is disempowering you right now, devastating. And it's so important for you not to have your lives wasted. Because what if you hit the membrane of death and then you see on your red clipboard, there's only really one main bad mistake that you made? You should have fought back. You should have done something. You had the tools, should have done something. Instead of outsourcing the potential, outsourcing the empowerment, and waiting for someone else to do it. And it is wonderful when you can actually do something about the evil in the world. It is freeing. I know so many people who are good spiritual people who have a very down energy, like the shoulders go down, because they see all of the evil that is going on here. And they're still in the spiritual limit, self-limitation mind state of they've got psychic gifts, but they just can't do anything about it. And then all that they can do is like rocking back and forth, waiting for Jesus, which is like a very, unkind way for me to say that. But all that they can do is to soothe themselves, tell them different platitudes, and meditate and try to feel better, but genuinely feeling very hopeless because they see the encroachment of evil and they can't do anything about it. That is like living in a house where you're not allowed to use soap and water. And every day you just see bugs and poop and horrible microbes and slime everywhere. And you're like, this place is terrible. I'm going to pray for some soap and water. It's like, you're the soap and water. You can get soap and water and you can clean up the place. This is what I'm telling everyone you have to do. And then let's go to, what does soap and water look like? It looks like using your ability to consciously co-create or manifest reality to clean up reality. So now I go to my notes that I'm sharing with you from 10 years ago, intentional use of energy. And this is all very apt and correct. And it is about the mechanics, or I don't have a better word because you're not a machine, but like the way that things fit together, the way that you as an individual ego presence with the physical body and as a person, like with personhood, fit together with your abstract light presence to make things happen in reality. And when you make things happen in reality, you need to like clean up the joint. People would be like, I want to make things happen in reality. Like, let's make whatever, like birthday cake or puppies. Like, we all like birthday cake and puppies. But then you know what you also need to do? Like, you will need to clean up the dishes after you eat birthday cake. Otherwise, you have lots of birthday ants. And then also, you need to clean up like the puppy poops. If you have these nice things, there will also be doo-doos associated with them. You're always going to have to clean up. And then I talked about energetic hygiene last week. That was a really, really good sharing and full of lots of chock full of practicalities that you can apply to your life. You will always have to clean up, cleaning up in the physical world, cleaning up in the microbial world, cleaning up in the emotional world, cleaning up in the level of your soul. And you should not be afraid of cleaning up. So please, if there's like one thing that you can get from what I'm saying here today, it is to free yourself from the limitations that say that you're not allowed to clean up. Like cleaning up is using soap and water to kill microbes and pathogens. It is also removing garbage. Not everything belongs in your environment. If you have puppies, the puppy belongs in your environment, but the poops do not belong in your environment. They belong somewhere else. Get them away from you. The I am presence in the red chakra. It's like you're allowed to be in existence. And also, you need to optimize your circumstance so that you stay in existence. Like you can't live in a sewer surrounded by poop, can't live in a garbage heap surrounded by garbage, and you're not required to. So, total reassessment of anything that reduces your freedom. And then as you start to create these glimmers of a different future, like how do you get into a better future? You poke all your sacred cows and you'd be like, well, what if I did this? Think of forbidden thought. What if I did this? What if I fought back with my mind? What if I used my intentional use of energy and the things that I write about from 10 years ago that ordinarily you might be like, well, I want to manifest or create like a new business or grow a garden or do something that's, of course, like very life affirming and community building. You can do those things. Those are wonderful, but you have to clean up first. I want to paint a painting, but my studio's a mess. I got to clean up first. Got to Windex the table. I got to take out the trash. I got to organize my painting supplies. Then I paint a painting. This planet is like a mess. You got to take out the trash first. Pathogenic consciousnesses, organisms that should not be here, matter and energy out of place, human social dynamics, and mental structures that are completely either obsolete or were erroneous from the beginning and must be taken away. And that's things like government, money, organized religion. And all of those guys are the guys that have the, and gals sometimes, nerve and questionable people of queered gender. I don't know what to say. I want to say weird and queer, and that's why that came out that way. And now I'm feeling very, very uncomfortable. But people of questionable whatevers who control reality with their mind because they've been told that they're the noblesse oblige. They're the ones who should be controlling reality with their mind. They are the least qualified people to control reality with their mind. Because again, they are not only pathogenic in creating disease and self-serving, they are very disconnected from divinity. You know, the predator and the predatory mind exists because it is the viewpoint of organisms who are not connected to divinity. When organisms are connected to divinity, you don't have resource insecurity because you're like, I have an infinite amount of anything. Like I can get anything I want at any time. I can make anything I want at any time. I can access anything I want or need at any time. I am not afraid. And that's a ridiculous proposal to be afraid of. No, it's like, I am the bank. Like I have all the money. I can make money. I can print money. I can generate money. I can generate money and I can generate potentials for money. Like you're not worried about things on that level. That's when a person is divinely connected. That's when it's like your uterus is healthy and your mitochondria are healthy and you eat food and digest it like a boss and you connect to the sun and get solar energy. That's a healthy, functional person. And then you can make things happen in the world and you're not worried about, oh, like what if I break my coffee cup? And be like, get another coffee cup. Like I make coffee cups with my mind. All right. So that sounded very attitude, but I want you to have some attitude because the King Charleses of the world have tried to give you the attitude of being a peasant where you're like, oh, I can't make anything happen. And I hope I don't break my coffee cup because I can't afford another one. I have to pay my Geico bill, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you make reality happen. But you did not make this bad stuff happen. King Charles and a bunch of other very, very diseased minds made this stuff happen. In fact, I don't think King Charles was like actively involved with talking to the founder of that OS hell system or anything like that, but there definitely were higher level dark magicians, established presences who hide behind the scenes of your world, like not overt figureheads, but hidden people that definitely funded and encouraged the research that went into creating the nano wetware, creating the injections, creating the worldwide infrastructure, like even from chemtrails to the coordinated activation of this particular frequency in 2020 that was funded by these higher levels of dark magicians who haven't up until this point controlled and structured whole economies. And so to them, you know, building a large impractical project like a loop that doesn't go anywhere and runs at 35 miles an hour is no problem. They're like, when chemtrails were first beginning to be noticed in like 2013, 2014, you might point them out to someone in the sky. Like, look at that weird thing up there. You start to talk about it with them. And at a certain point, their rationalism shuts you down because they're like, it's too big. It's too expensive. They couldn't do that. Who could do that? Who could afford that? These people could afford that. Now you understand. So also, just let me drink more. Just like all of the disreputable software companies that exploit and rug pull their patrons and clients and be like, we'll give you giant promises and they never actually follow through on it. So too is it with the expression of the 5G network and the other things that were promised from there. Like, so the controllers of reality were promised total mind control. The original dark magic is not enough to completely run reality. Reality is an incredibly complex supercomputer, and dark magicians don't have the cognitive capabilities or natural supercomputer abilities to affect reality. So now we'll talk about fun stuff. When I do lasagna, I'm in my supercomputer modality. And I have all of the RAM and processing power that I need to be able to coordinate giant events and do giant symphony. So think about it like when I do my music, I might start out and I might do a particular percussion as a foundation through the song, and then, some other like textural elements, something that makes like the background. And then I'm ready to do the melody on top of that background. But I still remember what the background sounds like. Like I put it there. I remember it. So I'm like, oh yeah, like in 1 minute and 25 seconds, like there's going to be a part like this because I put it there. And so my melody jazz improvisation is integrating with a series of events that I already have internalized and that I already have created. This is me with lasagna. Like I have already created a huge amount of the harmonic substrate of events that I'm working with, and then I jazz and make additional contributions on top of that in terms of event structures, and that it's easy, not easy, but like facile, like it's cool for me to integrate these things because I know what's coming. Like I put it there, I know it's coming. And then also I have the processing power to integrate new stuff and put new stuff in there. And so this is very, very high level complex stuff that the evil ones can't do shit. Like they are not good. So their transhumanist computers and computational devices are like very unimpressive. You know how autocorrect can't spell the? It's like 3 letters, and there is no word in your language that goes TEH. It's always THE, and I don't know why autocorrect does not just know that particular word, which should seem so simple. This is another example of rug pull. Like, it's going to save you so much time. It's going to be so easy. And instead, it's like, no, I spend a lot of time erasing this and trying to laboriously type back in the correct thing that it did. So it's auto incorrect, right? And these hydrogel soldiers are similarly, they're the auto incorrect of the fabric of reality. You are correct thinkers with good articulation, and you are trying to think thought structures about your life. Like maybe, again, you want to build a business or build a family. You're envisioning the future and you're thinking, I want to make this happen. I want these events to happen. I want the reality to be structured like this. Totally appropriate for you to do that. And you do that through activating your DNA, your reproductive passionate energy, like energy of having babies, but also energy of creating your next cellular structure for like the body, the stem cells that will be you tomorrow. And also connecting to the potentials that are within your light body or your ephemeral body. And you use all of those things in order to be able to make events happen in reality. And then you have these, hydrogel filled super soldiers and these amplified bad minds. And they exist just to rain on your parade. They don't actually have their own generative things they're trying to do. Like you're trying to paint a painting. It's like they're also trying to paint a painting. They're only trying to stop you from painting. They're like, hey, nice paintbrush they got their kid out, steal it from you. And then you can't paint your painting. You're like, whoa. Or steal your paints or mush your painting after you make your painting. Your painting is your DNA. Don't go through the scanners because they will mush your painting. Do you understand? So someone's whole job out there is a very sad job. It's to invent painting, mushing technology for human beings to walk through in, I want to say transitory hubs, whatever, while they're on vacation, for you to walk through on vacation. That's a very terrible reality structure that they are emitting. And it's not your job. They're emitting that, not you. You are not emitting the story that they are emitting that story. So here it is. Stephen King writes horror novels. He writes horror novels. I don't write horror novels through his mind. I don't have that shit up here. I never think about that stuff. When I even come across that stuff as I'm looking at social media, I'm like, ugh. And it's totally alien. It's not my shadow. It is totally not me. So you can stop with this whole, not you, but everybody in the world, in the sound of my voice, can just drop the whole paradigm of shadow work and integration of these gross, disgusting aspects of self. It doesn't heal those aspects of self. It just means that you're like living amongst poop. What you really need to do is to be able to say like, that's not me and that's not healthy. And I don't want that to be in existence. These amplified horror minds only think about destruction. So they're really not able to construct because construction is a harmonic creation. And you actually have to play some good music. And their music is so bad that they really can't create, but they can destroy your creation. And, or they have up until this point been destroying or inhibiting your creation. I want you to know that you can end that. And that is why I'm advocating for psychic violence. The capacity to create with your mind must come hand in hand with the capacity to protect your creation. Otherwise, your creation gets stolen and misappropriated and hijacked by poop and bad stuff and evil people. So, what I talk about in the intentional use of energy is a beautiful partnership between yourself as the biological inhabitant, as the physical cellular body, as the passion and the energy, and then being guided by your own higher dimensional presence, which I call the coherent light family. I don't have better words for this, but it's important for you not to get fooled by astral hand puppets that are like, I'm Buddha, I'm Jesus, listen to me. And that's not what I'm trying to say at all. So that was another important point for me to make in giving you this presentation here today. No, your coherent light family, first of all, does not talk to you verbally. So any voices in your head or voice to skull agency crapola, don't listen. That's not your real coherent family. Your family of light speaks to you through profound nonverbal insight to your true mind and also speaks to you through your gifts of perception. So that's clairaudience and clairsentience and also your tactile gifts and other levels of clairsentience and deep knowing. So I'm highly critical of people that like, whatever, if you're going to have a conversation with a plant, you're like, hello, plant, nice to meet you. My name is Aurora. And then the plant is like, hi, like my name is Harry. I'm a plant. I'm like, that's not a real conversation. You understand that is not, that's like fantasy and making stuff up and playing pretend. No. And I don't blame you for not knowing what real food is, but that is not real food. So when you have a real connection, it is a palpable energy connection to an organism like a plant or a flower. And then you are feeling from it and it is feeling from you. It's all based in love. It's not based in technology. And then your answers are all nonverbal and your comprehension is all nonverbal. And it is also mutual and reciprocal. And again, none of this is something that can be perceived or measured by human science, like whatever, some kind of MK Ultra laboratory where like the person has electrodes, the plant has electrodes, you're holding up star-shaped cards and seeing like if you can connect with it, like that you can't measure psychic powers like this. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I hope that humanity drops all of that level of exploration. I will not think of any levels of crude analogy, but it's very much like trying to analyze something magical like an orgasm. Like you can't analyze it. You have to experience it. And it's not something that can be scientifically proven or disproven or something like that. Like, no. And you know, when again, I didn't want to be crass by talking about orgasm, but you know that it's something that is more than biological, that it is also spiritual, energetic, and emotional and happens on many levels. And that science is not in your present world even prepared to explore these other levels. And also another critique of these hydrogel infested soldiers and these dark magicians is that they don't really even know or have the technology to make an assessment of what happens after death. They are all flying blind. They are all acting upon myths, stories, analogies, and the promises of founders. Except in this case, the founder is not Elizabeth Holmes or Elon Musk. It's Satan, the original founder. And he's going to rug pull all of them because he's talking all about, you know, it's a sense of like what you will get if you participate and the big promises, but that's never what it's actually going to be. It's always a huge disappointment. And it's long after you're far too invested to disentangle or to pull yourself out. And that would be fair in a pristine system where it's like, look, either you're a good person and you finish the marathon, or you're a bad person and you get drawn off your path and lied to and tempted by the satanic races. And then you end up on bad timelines where you're not where you're supposed to be and you're destroyed. That would be fair, but you haven't been in a pristine system. And a lot of good people have been drawn onto the dark timelines because of this. Fictionally, of course, this frequency combined all of human potentials for the future into one big slush fund. And I said to you, you weren't being graded as individuals. You were being graded as a group, and you are in school with sweat hogs who are not good students. And they made this many mistakes, this, a file this fat of mistakes. And that is very, very bad. And that meant that if you were graded as a group, you would have all been severely diminished and destroyed and have no hope. And that's not fair. And it's definitely not fair for that frequency to combine together all of your DNA. Hold on, I want to press pause on talking about the frequency and the slush fund of humanity because Princess Cheeky is over here and I have bribes prepared. Bribes are prepared, so I will be sure to give her a little something. Take a 2-minute break, everyone. 2-minute break. Thank you so much. Pedro has a great question here. He says, can we use lasagna violence? Merkabahs and FRLs in creating the reality where the Putis have their butts kicked to entropy. I'd say not only can you must. And this is really important. Violence is being used as such a bad word, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I have also been using the word confront or confrontationalism because it's not just about violence. And violence can also be done in a very surreptitious and indirect manner. Like, think about chemical poisoning. That is a violence against your system, and it's indirect. It's not like someone stabbing you in the face, and it's done to you a lot in your culture, and it's not okay. So I'm talking about confrontationalism. And that is a setting of boundaries. Like you say, like, this is the boundary. Like, this is what's okay and what's not okay. And if something is not okay, you must confront and address the person that is not okay or the thing that is not okay. And so it's a subtle distinction. Just being violent or confronting something that is wrong. And in your confrontationalism, you can use violence, and you can and you must. All right. Setting a boundary. You must use violence in setting a boundary. Why not just use a verbal boundary? That's where you're like, hi, Mr. Rapist, please don't rape me or anyone else. And the rapist will be like, I'm not going to listen and I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. Like, so people use prayer as a form of verbal, I don't want to say violence, but it's instead of being active and confronting with violence, the person who is pathogenic or the pathogenic behavior, people pray. And that's not the right response. That is not what you should do. Okay. Why is it not the right response? Because you're outsourcing the actionable aspect of creating reality. You can't outsource the action. You are the acting person, not actor like a fake actor in a play, but you're the person who does stuff. So your chakras give you ideas, but they don't do stuff. If you need to pick up a pencil and move it around, you do it. If you need to water a garden, you do it. You can't be like, oh man, the garden is so thirsty. I'm going to pray to God. I hope God waters the garden. Or my garden is so thirsty. I'm going to pray to my chakras. I hope that my chakras do something about it. Or my world is so fucked up. I hope that somebody like my chakras or God does something about it. No, none of that works. You are the instrument. You are the avatar. Avatar from Sanskrit. I did this in class already. Avatar, meaning one who has come across waters. Usually it is used as a vaunted compliment, an avatar, a conduit of the gods, a hero. You should be that, and you should think of yourself as that. You should be an avatar of justice, an avatar of the mind of God, a container for this divine intelligence and divine actionable justice. And you should confront evil in the world. And confronting it verbally is one thing. It's like, let's say you see someone being evil and you say to them, naughty, naughty, like you shouldn't do that. What do you think will happen? You guys have been in existence for at least a couple of decades in this world. What do you think is going to happen? Okay, one thing is the evil person might be like, I don't care. I'm going to keep on being evil. Another thing they might be is say, who the fuck are you to try to stop me from being evil? And then they might even be violent towards you. Be like, I'm not going to stop being evil and I don't like your face. I'm going to kill you now. None of that works. None of that works. And that's pretty much when people are like, I don't like this world. I will write a blog. I'll write a strongly worded letter. I might even use capital letters in the things that I'm writing. Like, that is confronting evil, but you're just using words. And you need to do much more than that. So words are a very flimsy and inadequate level of reality. The large language models should have proven that to you, but instead people are just delving into the labyrinth of insanity. So language will never give you additional clarity. Language add dilutes Language dilutes clarity and meaning. The more you talk, the worse it gets. Pure insight is the best transmitter of actual meaning and actual truthfulness. Dark magicians rely upon words. They're like, oh, I wave my magic wand, I say a series of words, and then something will happen in reality. No, what actually happens is their nerve plexus activates and they think that they are able to affect reality. And you're in the battle of the bands with people who are negatively projecting reality to do something like create World War III. This is a big one. And I've been working a lot behind the scenes to prevent that future from being the experienced reality. But there were many leaders of the IMF. That's why I've talked about the trans, queer, and questionable people. Because I think that lady may not be a lady, but I'm sorry to say that. But whoever is the person who runs the IMF and whatever is their present identity, constructed identity, their present artificial level of constructed identity, they are not trustworthy. And they are doing a lot of dark magic in terms of creating negative reality structures that require the death of however many hundreds of thousands of soldiers in a World War III to prop up their inadequate and largely fantastical, like imagined and pretend money system. That's very, very evil. They need to try to make World War III because they are insolvent. And that's also the guys who run the Bank of England. So King Charles, he doesn't run the Bank of England, but he's friends with all of those dark magicians. And the Bank of England doesn't have any gold anymore. They didn't have gold for like the past 5 months. They're supposed to have a lot of gold in there, but they don't have any gold in there. And everyone is like, hi, it's me. I want my gold. And they're like, sure, we've got it. I'll give it to you in 6 weeks. And then they hang up the phone really fast. And then they're like, nothing to see here. Shifty guys, nothing to see here. And that was them 6 months ago. So yeah, no, the Bank of England doesn't have its gold, and Fort Knox doesn't have its gold, and China doesn't have its gold. Like these are all very, very bankrupt higher institutions. And they're all just waiting to see the truth of how empty everybody's bank accounts are. But all of those people have these nerve plexuses, and some of them come from academia. If they don't necessarily come from a family background and a person who dandled you on the grandfather's knee and said, you're a special baby, here's your nerve plexus, you get to run the world. Maybe they went to academia. And as students, they were dandled on the professor's knee and they said, here's your a doctorate. You're a PhD now. Go forward and create economic policy. Got it? So they're like, I have a nerve plexus. This is PhD or whatever, economic policy. I'm telling other people what to do. They actually not only are not well informed, but they are profoundly malevolent. And that is why they should not be controlling or contributing to reality, why they should not be amplified with wetware and hydrogels, why their reality should not and shall not be louder than yours. So what's the alternative to World War III as a way to prop up the flimsy falling forward facade of the world economy? And the answer is like destroy the current level of the world economy because it is not viable and non-functional, but you also must renovate and construct a new parallel viable economy at the same time. And I've been talking to you guys about this for a long time. That's when I say renovation, not a demolition. A demolition is what these evil ones with Stephen King horror shows in their minds have tried to emanate outward. And that would be like many different movies where the premise is there's no more government, there's no more police, there's no more food, there's no more electricity, there's no more clean water. And then humanity devolves into cannibalism. And there's very, very sad movies about that. Like whatever, we can name them. It's all science fiction dystopia. Like there's The Road and there's The Hunger Games. And there's there was a TV show called like Revolution or something like that from over 10 years, like 2012 or something like that, a long time ago. Like people have been talking about this for a long time. So none of those are positive reality structures to either contain or to emanate outward. And they don't come from you. Like when you have a thought that comes from your chakras, it arises internally. Maybe you're in a hammock or sitting in a reverie or like floating your bathtub and you just have this idea. That's very different than the predictive programming and grooming that happens from exposing yourself to TV and Hollywood and all of that stuff. So yeah, a lot of Netflix is this amplification of diseased pathogenic minds, people with money, and their bad ideas being amplified with money, so that in a hope to influence and hijack your reality creation. So you must not only confront these evil people who are trying to do that, but also you have to create good spiritual boundaries around yourself so that their crappy pathogenic thought structures aren't influencing you. And when people go to academia, like they get the PhD nerve plexus, but they also get indoctrinated into certain worldviews, certain presumptions about the structure of reality. And as long as you conform to those consensual, like everybody agrees to these presumptions, then you can have some power in terms of creating realities that other people will also ingest and agree to. But those presumptions are flawed on a deep inner level. So now here's the truth. You are more powerful than any of the questionable people that run the IMF, fat ass King Charles's, or any of these people. Their voices are really small and very impotent. The voice of their mind. So that's why they take something like either hydrogels or cocaine or hydrogels and cocaine. Like that Zelensky guy, like he's totally a hydrogel soldier and he takes cocaine too. And people have kissed his ass and told him that he's in charge of a lot of people. And they put him on the cover of Vogue, okay? Or like a Vogue photo shoot. Like this is the type of person that I'm talking about. But those people are very diseased minds. And when you take away their hydrogels and their cocaine or whatever the fuck they're taking, their mind does not go very far. And I told you today already, the energy of misery does not go very far. It kind of loses it. But the energy of joy goes very far when your heart sings. So you got to balance out two things. And this is what I do right now in my practice. I balance out lasagna kicking ass, because sometimes you have to do confrontationalism and psychic violence and clean house and clean out the studio and creating boundaries. Imagine if there's tentacles are coming inside of your studio and you're like, I can't even paint. Like I'm trying to paint, like there's tentacles on my arm and everything like that. Like you need to get a machete, chop off the tentacles, close the doors, burn the tentacle bodies, clean everything out. And then you can be like, oh, now that we're all clean, now I can finally go back to my painting. All right. So you need to do that. You need to balance out the house cleaning activities and boundary setting activities with your finer expressions and your painting too. Can't be like, okay, first I'm going to just spend 10 years cleaning up the place, then I will finally do my painting, because you will lose your energy for painting. So you got to do both at once. And it is very hard. You have to be both, yes, meditating, and then also fighting and dueling with the other hand. So I'm meditating, but I'm also fighting evil with this hand. You have to be creating and generating a beautiful future and emanating those thought forms in conjunction with the sun, the stars, the world of abstraction, the world of potential. And then you also have to be fighting against evil and the confronting evil. Let's talk about responsibility, because your chakras are powerful, but they are not in the position to confront evil, because you are the person who can actually pick up a pencil. They cannot pick up a pencil. They are like that movie Ghost, where he's like trying to touch stuff, but he is intangible. But your chakras are not in astral form like that movie, but they are intangible, powerful in their own realm, but not powerful here. And that's literally why you are here, to be powerful in this realm. And it is not a punishment. It is a privilege and an amazing thing. And you should embrace it. You're like, if you need a pencil picked up and moved around the physical world, I am your person. I'm going to do it. Yeah. And the challenge is that when they turned on 5G and put a lot of these pollutants into the world, it became much more difficult for you to either hear divinity or hear your coherent light family and connect with your chakras. And that was very much the action of this stuff in the physical body is to distance yourself from this non-physical energy apparatus. It makes a real separation, like encryption noise, like you know what I mean? Like it hides the signal. The artificial evil signal hides the real signal of your real chakras inside of you, because you really do have higher dimensional aspects of self that are giving you good guidance at all times. So they can't do it for you, but they can give you good guidance. And that's an important distinction. Like, let's say you're like, I'm really hungry. I'm like, please, oh, please, God, please, oh, please, chakras, can I have some food, please? And the chakras are going to be like, look, I cannot make you food. I'm abstract, but I can give you good information about where you can get food. And they will say, like, pick up the phone and call like 1-800, like order some food now and you'll get some food. And also, here's where you can get some money to get your food. Like, that is the equivalent of what they can do. They can't pick up the pencil and move it in physical reality. They cannot be like, here's a roast turkey, here's a banquet, like eat it now. They are non-physical. So the best they can do is help to give you guidance as to where or how you can fulfill your physical needs. And that is the essence of what I talk about in my notes. The non-biological aspect of yourself is like a structured trellis in the garden that gives structure to the vines of your consciousness, because otherwise your vines are like, they're over here, they're over here, you're over here, you're over here. You're very energetic, like an electron. You're bouncing all over the place. That is beautiful, but you have no structure. And what you need is structure, which is say like, no, energetic electron, don't bounce everywhere. Just go over here and do this. And that is what the structure is. The structure tells you in a positive way, not like the ancient Atlantis hijacking way. In a positive way, tells you, look over here. And now look over here. And now learn about this. And now learn about this. And when you, the biological participant, follow those directives, there's always a fly in here during class. You learn and you integrate it in a way that brings you towards your ultimate freedom. So I get directives all the time that are non-rational, like learn about linen production in the world. And so I delve into learning about the history of clothing from the Vikings to the Romans to the present, and what people wear and why. And I don't question it. I'm just like, this is important for me. This is my curated curriculum from my highest self telling me that this is important and it's not random or stupid. And I learn about these things. And then later I'm like, oh, that is why that was important and vital in my life. I follow the breadcrumb trail or the curriculum towards my own freedom. And by doing that, I have maintained my excitement, maintained my engagement with life, and continued to learn new things in the correct direction. That's how you construct reality. And again, you should be guided by your own chakras, your own heart, your own sense of inner excitement, your own librarian of the cosmos that gives you these assignments. It's all internally self-directed. That's why I tell you, like, I would not be sad if there was no one else in the world. I'd be like, oh, like, I am fine with this. Like, I am internally self-directed. Like, I'm going to learn all this stuff. And in many ways, like, I would be relieved because, like I told you already last week, I was like, yeah, like I've lived in lots of different life situations here in the world, and I can relate to a lot of your own struggles. So like I've lived in shared houses with 5 roommates. I've lived with 1 roommate. I've lived on my own. I love living on my own because I'm not lonely. And I'm like, all of my messes are my own. All of my emotional messes are my own. My dirty coffee cup is my own. I don't have to clean up or deal with things that are totally not my responsibility or my direct, relevance to my life. And that is a wonderful level of freedom. And that I find the nanogel filled evil magicians of your world to be like interruptive of my creative process and largely distractive. They're really not contributing to reality at all. I would be very, very happy if they all suddenly disappeared. And I'd be like, wow, I can finally think. I can finally just create and make good stuff. And then, of course, like I'd be very happy if people like you were a part of my reality. And I wanted to say, like, you don't have to be a perfect person in order to be a part of reality, but you do have to be intentionally trying to be good. You have to be non-evil. You have to be self-responsible. You have to be trying to learn. Like, I think that I've articulated these characteristics very well because people try to portray it in the New Age world as like this high jump that is so high that no one can make it, of like, you have to be a perfect person. You have to be a perfect person to be a spiritual teacher, a perfect person to ascend, play a perfect piano recital for your life. And it's very high standard and almost unattainable. So, that's not accurate either. And what you have to do is follow the inner directives and get better and better at following the inner directives. So an ascended master is literate, can read time, can anticipate what's going on, and is doing their very best to play the right notes. And when you make a mistake, you're like, pinky slipped, played the wrong note. Like, okay, all right, I played the wrong note. I'm going to have to fix that negative time emanation later. I'll take responsibility for it. And that's what it is to be a good person. But you're making your genuine efforts to do things correctly. The evil ones are not making genuine efforts to do things correctly. They are intentionally doing things badly, intentionally doing bad math or incorrect or inadequate math, intentionally destroying and destabilizing the fabric of reality. A lot of their mania of their nerve plexus when they do this is to say, they're like, I'm the sacred darkness, I'm the balanced tier light, gotta have some destruction to have some creation, right? And you can tell from my face, it's like, they're maniacs and they're crazy. They are crazy. They are crazy. Because think about that in your body. If you had a part of your body that was attacking another part of your body and was like, gotta have some destruction to have some creation, gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, right? You would be like, get the fuck out of me. You're hurting my body. Like, you can't have that. And that is how time feels about these pathogenic consciousnesses. No, you do not need to break a few eggs to make a time omelet. They are 100% incorrect. And in order to make events happen in time, you need to make events happen that are good music, that sound good, and integrate with the entirety of the cosmic symphony. And that's a tall order. That is the high jump that you actually have to jump over. The masterpiece and the story of your life must be true to yourself, in integrity with your own heart and your own true identity. And you must mesh and integrate your integrity, personal self-authentic expression with the rest of creation. And everybody else has to also be authentic too and connect with you. That is what our world is like in ancient concurrent Atlantis. And the way that we have that world is by clearing out pathogens. Because you can't have this type of respectful rapport and collaboration when you have pathogens. And the pathogens right now in your world are here. How do you clear out the membrane of death? Through flying rainbow lasagna. Because when this is vibrating up and down, that is when you're able to clear out the membrane of death and to send those characteristics to entropy. I would say entropy, like an echo. They can go to entropy on their own because sometimes they'll be like, help me, I'm a damsel, send me to entropy. And it's like, you can actually go to entropy on your own. You don't actually need my help, but you don't need their permission. They can be non-consensual. You can send someone to entropy even if they don't want to go. Even if they're like, no, I'm a pathogen and a parasite and I'm addicted and I want to keep on being a parasite and getting your life force energy. I don't want to go. I'm a vampire and I refuse to go. And you can be like, you know something? I'm going to send you to entropy. And it doesn't matter if it's inconvenient to you. It is what I'm choosing to do. And when you do that, you are an avatar of justice for the larger time field. And if no one else did that, and I was the only person doing that, we would have life, we would have a future. But you make my life so much easier when you do that too in the areas where you are directly capable. Hold on, I'm just going to open the door for one moment for my little dog. Hold on 1 second. Pause this for you. Press the button. Hold on. So Pedro says, and then I'll get to your question, Suzica, love those dystopian shows. After watching them, I erased them from the possible timelines. Me too. Me too. I watched that show called Revolution from 2012. It was like someone recommended it to me or whatever it was, but it was definitely grooming for the expectation to be people to put that energy into the world through their expectation. And I'm like, oh no, cancel and clear all of this. We are not doing this. And the timeline that they wanted to make that happen was literally 1 year ago in the United States with Hurricane Helene, which was an engineered storm that was to wipe out some areas of Appalachia. And then there was also going to be a destabilization of like militias fighting against the federal government. And it was going to be just like that TV show. And in watching that show, I was like, oh no, like this is definitely not a powerful or positive collaboration, because what happens? There's a lot of violence, a lot of collateral damage, a lot of good people that get killed in those situations. So you think, oh, the solution is like remove all electricity from the electrical grid and take down all the telecommunication systems and take down the government and then we'll be safe. It's like, no, if you do that, you will just have a lot of empowered pathogens running around with nothing to actually stop them. So think about that also in the level of psychic warfare and the astral. If there is no one who is enforcing cosmic law, if there's no one who sets a boundary or says this behavior is not allowed and I am here to confront you on it and stop you from what you're doing, then that behavior runs rampant. And then you might come forward and be like, well, who am I to set these boundaries and to try to enforce this law? So like I went to some kind of a whatever law enforcement academy, and then people taught me how to do it and gave me a badge and said, you are now official and you're allowed to do this. It's definitely not like that. You are self-selecting to be cosmic law enforcement. And then also, yes, you must go through a training regimen and you must become capable in what you're doing. So I'll tell you about myself. I went through my training regimen a long time before I came into this incarnation. Okay, so I already have all of that training to be able to do this, and all of my efforts in other times and places have been my on-the-job training for how to do this type of stuff. So please know that many of you also come into this world with pre-existing spiritual training about how to act in this totally unprecedented time where you can't just work on the patterns that have been established in the past. You can't just be like, oh, like in this time and place over here, we did this. Dust your hand. Like, we are done. We know, because this is it's an innovative time. The stuff that we fight against is a new form of bad stuff, and we have to get new innovations to be able to fight against it effectively. So you erase timelines with your mind. The people who are making those timelines are like, hey, stop erasing my timelines. I don't like you because you're erasing my timelines, and I now consider you persona non grata, or now I don't like your face, kid, and now I'm going to try to mess with you. And that's to be expected when you go up against dark magicians. All right. And then none of this is tit for tat. Like, you just expect that. Like, you poke a hornet's nest and the hornets will fly on out, and then you have to be prepared for the next thing that you will do. And this is part of, again, training in how to do spiritual warfare. And, I feel pretty comfortable saying these things in a video that will be, up on whatever, like a public streaming platform or whatever, because I really am talking about spiritual warfare. And mostly these FBI and police agencies, they think of this as like, psychic nonsense. So let them think of it as psychic nonsense. Like, I'm really not talking about, whatever, like training in a boxing match or with guns or anything like that. Like, I'm really not talking about that, but I'm talking about psychic warfare, which is a different level of training in violence. So because it is not something that can be perceived, measured, quantified, or used, mostly your world doesn't acknowledge it or use it. But there is that horrible movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats. And some of the actors in that movie are literally these hydrogel-filled soldiers. So you're not just fantasizing if you think that you're fighting against them with your mind. But that is a movie about unacknowledged or underacknowledged United States government programs that are the Army's use of highly trained psychic warriors to do stuff. So please know that those guys exist. And in this world, they're now not only dark magicians, but they are technologically infested dark magicians. But their technology is not very good or not very impressive, but still, even a mosquito can be annoying. Even a mosquito can, whatever, suck your blood and give you a disease. So I don't want you guys to get, I don't want you guys to be attacked or be vulnerable because you go forward and attack a foe, and then you don't know that they're going to fight back. So they're already attacking you. They have attacked everyone in this world with the frequency warfare and with these types of pollutions, and with the people who have had these types of pollutions who emit the negative thought structures, which are thought structures not only about catastrophe, like world-ending disasters, but also catastrophe on a social level, which would be like fascism, totalitarianism, all loss of human rights and loss of human sovereignty. I keep on coming back to this topic, and I keep on wanting to tell you about it. There's a proposed building project that was in Saudi Arabia called The Line, part of NEOM, NEOM, a massive multi-billion-dollar building project that kingdom was going to do over the next 10 years. And it's totally tanked. Like, they lost a lot of money. It was a good example of how, like, the nerve plexus is not working on these guys anymore, because the king or the prince of that area of the world is used to people really royally kissing his ass. You're not allowed to say no. And that guy was like, bring me a gold-plated cheeseburger, and then I want to drink Smurf juice for lunch. You'd be like, yes, yes, Prince, I will bring that to you right away. Like, you don't get to say no. So he came up with these crazy ideas for building this extremely, extremely long vertical city, like very futuristic. And everybody kissed his ass and was like, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to make it happen. And they wasted a ton of money. And luckily it failed because it was a rug pull. It was described as a futuristic, wonderful society, like a clean, smart city. Millions of people would live there and don't have to have a car. And there's all these computer renderings that are so like they make you want to throw up because you know it's not real. Just like this is not real at all. That's how they're trying to portray it when it was actually going to be a prison. It was actually going to be like this totally unlivable place in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, where they were going to put whatever, like, I don't even know who they were going to put there. Because, I mean, troublemakers like me, like, we would never go there. I would never go there. But I think they were going to try to make it seem like it was going to be like Dubai, in the way that that place is looked at like a very fancy, clean, technologically advanced society, and fancy, beautiful people go there and live there and gamble there or party or whatever. I think that it was meant to be that type of thing where it's like a high status place. And then when they got there, it was gonna be rug pull. It was gonna be like Mad Max. People imprisoned inside there are not able to leave. It was basically going to be come under false, fraudulent promises, probably give them a lot of money to do it too, and then none of it was going to be as promised. It was instead going to be a place where you could never actually get out of it. And so luckily that, not luckily, I mean, I fought against it. I know Alabar's team did too, not an endorsement of Alabar and who he is as a person, but a lot of work went into destroying that nerve plexus. And now it is totally dead. It's dead as a project. So yeah, it's positive news because evil person who is very rich had a bad idea and put a lot of money into it, and the thing never actually happened, and they're not going to use it as a thing to imprison you. So that's good and positive, but it's an example of what was going on, the way that wealthy and entitled people ingest bad ideas. So I want to go a little bit further and not end class yet because the sun is going down. It feels like the end of the day, but we have more to talk about. Ideas are alive, or thought forms are alive, and they do exist as independent structures, independent from your physical body. Your brain is your fatty idea catcher. It is a gelatinous fatty substance that neutrinos and these little tiny particles fly through. And as they fly through, you get an idea. And the idea sets up a waveform or a pattern in your mind. And that pattern is what thought is. It's the dance of neurons in your mind. And the ability to dance and to create these patterns is a miracle. It is not something that is mechanistic or can be created by or mirrored by science. And it's not the same as a computer at all. It's a miracle and has to be respected and recognized in that way. So I'm sorry, I'm organizing my brain dances when I'm saying in that way, and it's very annoying to everyone. You should be allowed to dance freely in your own mind. That is like the I am presence, the red chakra, the foundation of who you are. It is part of freedom. No one should be or shall be allowed to tell you what you're allowed to think or how to move with your own mind. That's part of basic boundaries, and you must be confrontational about those boundaries. You should and shall also be allowed to choose like how you move your mind, which thought forms come inside of you, and which ones you actually believe, like you gestate into existence. So here's this rich fat ass in Saudi Arabia, and he's like, I want to make a giant city across the desert. And he wants to get an idea. It was a bad idea. And then he wanted to gestate it into existence. And even though he tried, it didn't happen because making things happen takes more than just the sycophant ass kissing of people around you and money. It takes real divine connection, real heart, and real passion, or real connection to the fabric of reality. And so, that guy who is one of the leaders in Saudi Arabia, it's the essence of what it is to be a dark magician. Ancient family bloodline, used to treating other people like peasants, used to ruling over the resources of a particular area, and hugely entitled as to the presumption of the capacity to influence and create and generate reality. But he is not a very strong mental person at all. If you take away his money and the people kissing his ass around him, then he is not like you or me. I can write a bunch of songs. I can write a bunch of reality songs. I don't need people to tell me I'm a magical person or give me a bunch of money. Like, I do it all the time because it's what I am and what I do. And also, I would love to have a bunch of money, but from doing good things. Let me read this question over here. Suzica, wait, let me go to your other thing. So Suzica over here says, yes, praying is useless. Thank you for recognizing that. It's also a difficult message for me to bring as a spiritual guide or inspirer or mentor, because most spiritual people are like, well, the answer is prayer. The answer is always prayer. And I'm like, like, no, like, do stuff. If I'm like, I pray that the pencil can move around, it's like, pick it up and do it. So everyone is like, I pray that evil will be wiped out of the world. Pick up the pencil. Wipe evil out of the world. And you're like, well, in order to do that, we're like, I'm going to have to use my mental and spiritual gifts and my tools that I have up here from God. Like, what would Jesus do? And would God be disappointed? I'm like, God gave you those things so that you could do something with it. And no, Jesus won't be disappointed. So that's another thing. Getting past the need for approval from the people that you respect. Like, it's good to want to have celebration and recognition for the things that you do that are right. But moving forward, like, you have to do what you know is right inside, whether or not there's approval and celebration. And that's a big part of being confrontational against evil, and a big part of the responsibility of creating reality. When you create reality, you do it because you know what is right inside, not because someone else influences you, or you've been indoctrinated in an academic program, or because you are tortured or coerced into doing it. Like, I'm creating this with my mind. I know that it's right. It's my music, and I'm doing this according to my standards and what I think is right. That is the correct way to be. So there's the stuff about approval and getting into Christian heaven, and that is all wrapped up in the approval of Jesus the man and what would Jesus do, and shaming people for even considering using psychic violence. And you should use psychic violence and not be ashamed. I'm closing the door because Cheeky just came in. Good job. And maybe we should give Cheeky a cookie because she did a good job. Because there's a story in the Bible. So you have to know the Bible is satanic literature and is not there for your empowerment. And there's a lot of distortions. You can't even know whether these events really happened or happened as portrayed. But there's a story about how, like, they came for Jesus at the end. And one of his disciples was like, the soldier's trying to take you away. And he's got a sword. He's like, I'm going to, like, kill the soldier. And Jesus was like, no, do not kill the soldier. Like, let them take me away. I'm here to be a martyr. Whether that's a real story or something, something that is manufactured, it is a powerful grooming for you to do something similar, because he's presented as a spiritual master who could have killed that soldier. He could have done something. He's like, no, take me away. Please torture me and crucify me instead. And that is insane and not something that I would do, or I wouldn't want any spiritual leader to do that. So it sounds like I'm very critical of Jesus. If he did that, I'm critical of Jesus. I'm like, no, Jesus, like, you're supposed to stay alive. You're not supposed to willingly go to your death. And this is very dissonant of your message and the message of life. So what are we supposed to do with our psychic powers? We're supposed to use them to stay alive. Yeah, to celebrate life, to continue to be alive, eternal life. To keep on being eternal life. We're supposed to use our psychic powers so we can continue to stay alive. Staying alive, and you may sing that song by the Bee Gees if you would like, is not just about survival, like fighting against pathogens and achieving enough food and water. Staying alive is also about aligning with your true life's purpose and doing the beautiful things that you're supposed to do. So for me, staying alive is not just like drinking filtered water and, eating some healthy grilled chicken. I must play music, and I must make artwork, and I must make clothing and talk to people and inspire them That is how you stay alive. So in short, you stay alive by getting onto the right timeline. There are many timelines where you have calories and water, but not all of those timelines are the right timeline for you. You are physically alive, but you're not necessarily being your true self and engaging in your true interconnected event structures with the larger time field of reality. So, me, when I'm playing my music, that keeps me alive because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you're not supposed to be playing music and you're supposed to be doing something different, like whatever, playing a football game, then playing music would not be on your correct timeline. You must follow your directive. And like, I don't want to play football. That's not my mission, but it might be your mission. And I chose that because it's like so far away from who I am and what I do. Um, you stay alive by aligning with the correct time structures, and you also stay alive by creating the correct time structures. When you are not in your distorted ego, but when you're in your true ascension ego, the things that you want for yourself are the things that are wanted for you by the larger time field and your larger coherent family of light. That is like, if you want ice cream is actually wanted for you. There's a reason why you want that ice cream. And if you like, for me, I'm like, I want to get this particular color of embroidery thread. The cosmos is like, I want you to get that thread. I actually gave you that thought and gave you that desire. And then you fulfill that desire. So you're in a beautiful partnership between the abstract nature of consciousness, where the potentials for thread or ice cream exist, and you as the experiencer, but also the manifester of those realities, because through your observership, you are coalescing potentials for thread into actual thread. You are coalescing potentials for ice cream into actual ice cream. You don't just pick up the pencil and move it around the room. You coalesce the potential of something that can be a pencil and make it into a pencil. And then you pick it up and carry it around the room. And that's a pretty magical thing to do. I was a pretty magical fucking thing to do. And you should continue doing it consciously. And now let's talk about applying that to the removal of this stuff. You are mandated to remove that stuff. That stuff is antichrist. It is anti-life. It is anti-God. That stuff is pathogenic. You have to clean up your environment. And that is part of being a responsible adult. So when you're a child or an adolescent and you live with your parents and they teach you, like, if you want to, whatever, have something fun, like watch a movie, you have to clean your room first. Or if you want to get your allowance, you have to clean your room first. And that is what we are learning here. And it's not okay to be like, something? I'm just going to play it safe and I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to clean up anything. I'm not going to make anything dirty because I don't know what to do. And then somehow someone else will clean stuff up. And then I will get to live in a clean house. Like, if you do that, I will clean stuff up. I am like the cosmic cleaning lady. But I am like this. I don't know if your mom ever said this to you. Like, it's the maid's day off. Like, do something, pick up your dish and bring it into the kitchen. So I'm not trying to be so much attitude with you, like, like your mom is upset because you're not cleaning your stuff up. I'm not upset because I know that there are large inhibitions that are spiritual implants, religious implants, so many judgments against people cleaning their room. Because cleaning your room means you're going to confront a lot of negative, evil stuff in human dynamics, and some of it is going to be violent. And what does that look like? Because there are some people in the world where if you criticize them and you say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, you are doing something wrong, and I don't like what you are doing, they're going to look at you and be like, I'm going to kill you now. Like, you don't like what I'm doing? I'm going to kill you now. And then they will try to kill you. And guess what? They've already been trying to kill you. Not only through these things, but through the overt or covert administration of poisons as indirect violence throughout your environment for a long time. For a long time. Air, food, water, and other things that are meant as medicine substances that have all been polluted and poisoned as violences against you. And that you're not, so as I've spoken about before, you're not required to cultivate yourself on a spiritual level to be a higher ascended master so that you can just stand there like Superman and have bullets bounce off of you. That is not truthful. And Superman, like, is a difficult movie for me to parse or analyze with you here because I know that I do a lot of babysitting and stuff, so that's how I know all the superheroes. Like I know Superman's dad's name because like kids will quiz you and they're impressed when you know these things. But the values that are presented in Superman of what does a good person look like? How does a good person act? How there's a bug that's in here, you saw that. How does Superman act? Superman is here in the world and bullets can't harm him, but he stands in front of the army and they all shoot at him and the bullets just go ding 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 ding. And he's like, you stupid army people, like I'm Superman, you can't hurt me. And also I'm your friend. Why are you shooting at me? You're not required to do that. And you're not required to do that because although that movie has groomed you for a type of spiritual martyrdom, when you stand in front of the army of this world and they find out that you're an invulnerable spiritual character or, impossibility, they don't stop shooting at you and they find bigger and better weapons to shoot at you. So a more accurate portrayal in the Superman movie would be first they shoot him with bullets and he stands there and he says, I'm Superman, fuck all of you. And then they're like, it's not doing anything. All right, get the lasers. And then they try to do lasers and he's like, nope, lasers, still not doing it. And they're like, okay, get the depleted uranium. And they do everything. And then finally they figure out what hurts him, which is kryptonite. And they shoot kryptonite arrows at him. And then he's like, oh, now I'm dead because he stood there, I want to say like an idiot, just letting them take pot shots at him until they figured out his weakness. Anything can have a weakness or a vulnerability. Even a diamond, if you imagine that this is carbon diamond, my giant diamonds, darling. But this is quartz. But if this were a regular diamond that is made out of carbon, even though it is the symbol of indestructibility, you could still burn it or not melt it, but incinerate it with a blowtorch. If you put it into a tube and put a blowtorch on it and didn't move it for an hour, it would burn. And that's like Superman can stand there and they can try to, beam some kind of incineration ray at him and maybe he can take it for a minute. But if you stand there for an hour, he will get incinerated. So all of this in order to say that you have been given powers sensibly. You have some shielding and some protection, but don't stand there like an idiot letting them shoot at you. Get out of the fucking way. And then make them stop shooting at you is another thing. So I have a better visitor from above type of story fairy tale for you. It's from Robert Heinlein, the Stranger in a Strange Land. Not a complete endorsement of the man at all. Robert Heinlein was a very troubled person and not a perfect person at all. And not everything about his values, but it's the Stranger in a Strange Land. It's like a very interesting book. And I know it influenced Elon Musk a lot, but Elon Musk is nothing like Valentine Michael Smith. So, because Valentine Michael Smith was a human raised on Mars in this fictional story. And then he came to Earth and he had all these different powers, but he didn't use technology in order to do them. He just had psychic powers that he got because he was raised in a completely otherworldly culture. So Elon Musk doesn't have psychic powers. And he identifies with this fictional character, but like Elon Musk has all this crazy hydrogel in him and he still can't do shit. And like Valentine Michael Smith could do all these amazing things just with his natural powers. So I bring up that book because there's one point where the Martian character, Valentine, he has created a type of cult, it's like a semi-peaceful cult. But anyway, the authorities are distressed. And so they send like a bus of army guys to his house with guns. And they're like, get that friend. Hey, is that a benevolent space creature? A benevolent visitor? Get him. Get him, boys. So they send the bus of get him boys to him. And so the Martian guy, Valentine, he's like swimming in the pool, hanging out, chilling. He sees this bus of army guys coming up to his house with a bunch of machine guns or whatever. And he just makes them disappear. He just makes them go bye-bye. The people and their weapons. And this is, of course, perceived through the filter of human communication as like a huge violence against the army, like having declared war against the army. There's an intermediary that asks this Martian person who seems like relatively peaceful, but then obviously has done this thing. Like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? And the Martian guy just says, "Oh, I disappeared them." And he's like, "What? What do you mean you disappeared them? Like, where did they go? What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, they weren't meant to be in existence. They were a great wrongness." And it's very much like entropy. And he just sensed that they were matter and energy out of place on the wrong timeline with completely the wrong intentions and just made them disappear and just also removed from reality their weapons as well. That is really how a master acts. That is like the ultimate of what you should be like. And it's empirical and it's not even personal. It's not like, I don't like your face. I hate your fucking guts. I'm going to get you unalive. It's really more just like, oh, like that's a bad map. That's not supposed to be there. Get rid of that. That is what it is like when you have these higher psychic powers. So please do not limit your capabilities. Please cultivate your capabilities as much as you can, as quickly as you can to come to adulthood and empowerment. My job is to get all of you guys up to speed and up to adulthood. I am here to protect you during this time, and I clean up a lot of messes, and I'm being the cosmic cleaning lady. I want you guys to be able to protect yourselves and clean up your own messes. Yes. And I want you to be, I'm saying I want you, but it's like, it's my intention. It's not really that good to want something for others because I want you to be in freedom. So it's my intention for you to be in freedom and my intention for you to be fully capacitated and fully empowered to the point that I don't have to be here to protect you anymore. But I'll still be here, but I'll be here like in a cool, fun, collaborative, generative way. Right now, I'm like the umbrella keeping out the giant shitstorm. And so each one of you, I'm encouraging you to cultivate yourself. Don't do the social limits and the things that you're not allowed. It's like, I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to do this. Think the forbidden thoughts. And this is, what would it be like if you had psychic powers and you could do something like what Valentine Michael Smith did in that fictional book? What if you could do that? And do you think you would be punished by God if you did that? Do you think that's an inherently wrong thing to do? Do you think it's okay? Do you think, because I don't think that it's inherently wrong at all. I actually agree with him. That's why I brought up that fictional anecdote. I'm like, that's how you do it. That is what you should do. And people are really worried about blowback. They're like, but if I use my psychic powers like that, then someone's going to get rid of me. No, I don't know who you think the police are, but there are no police right now. You're in a wild west. And what you do, or you think that it is going to be like Jesus or God, but that they're just very late. And that's why these evil ones have been able to do so much. It's like, I better not do anything bad or wrong. Like, mom will find out. Well, where's mom? Because they're all doing something wrong and mom didn't do anything to them. So where is mom? You're like, I don't know, but I better just sit here and just be a good person and sit in my high chair and not do anything because I don't want to make mom angry. And I'm like, mom is angry because you are not cleaning up your room and you are not cleaning up evil in the world. And you absolutely have to clean up evil in the world. And it is not being a good person to sit quietly and passively and not to do anything. Although I am being the umbrella. So if you do want to explore that reality structure, you're not going to get destroyed, but you will find out that it was not effective. After this is all done, you'll be like, oh, like that was not effective at all. And I did the wrong thing. And I would be like, yes, you did the wrong thing, but thank you for learning from it. And I'm glad you're still in existence. Now try to do the right thing. Because the other option is you get to the membrane of death. You did the wrong thing. And you find out on the clipboard, like, you should have done something and done something much sooner. And then you get to try. So that's it. If you were on that timeline, people are always presuming that there will be another cycle. Be like, next time I'm going to get it right. There would not have been a next time. That's the real problem. I wasn't here and you were like, I'm not going to fight back. I'm just going to get destroyed. Spiritual martyrdom for me. And you're like, oh, spiritual martyrdom, that wasn't so great. I have to try again. Give me another quarter for the video game of life, please. Oops, the arcade is closed. I now have no more options. That's my very facetious and silly cartoon way of saying like that would not have been a good effect on your life and on your soul. And that's why I'm here. Because a lot of you have an enormous amount of soul potential, but it would be wasted and you would be destroyed from the erroneous grooming towards nonviolence. And that you're trying so hard to be good people that you're holding yourselves back from your primal self, which is to fight back and to fight back effectively. People do fight back here who are nonviolent. They fight with words. And they're like, oh, the pencil is mightier than the sword. I would like to blog about this. You can blog all you want about these, whatever, Samsung super soldiers. It doesn't stop them from frying your brain. So investigative journalism only will take you so far. Exposés will only take you so far. You have to do a lot more than that. So in your world, you've had already a lot of exposés about satanic abuse, sexual violations, the profound corruption that is in both not only your government, but also high levels of corporate leadership and money structuring. And you're aware of all this stuff. Like you can write blogs about it for the next 10 years. Without confrontation, the information does nothing. So we're past the point of just talking about this. And now you must actually do something. And the something that I want you to do is not necessarily to storm the Bastille or storm Versailles with pitchforks and torches, like the French Revolution style, and be like, blah, blah, we don't like you, Marie Antoinette, like get out of existence. That is not actually what I'm advocating for. That type of mob violence in response to government overreach usually means that you get a bad new government that is made by the lame ass losers who overran the old government. And it's a cycle that's been done very many times in the past. So if I thought it was effective, I'd be like, yeah, storm the Bastille. But if it's not going to be very effective, but you know what you do need to do is use your psychic powers. And so these hydrogel soldiers are very susceptible. They run on software. They run on NVIDIA chips. They run on technological stuff that you can break with your mind. If you don't, I don't want to say that. You do your comfort level. If you feel comfortable confronting the biological entities, the people that are walking around in your world and doing evil, do so. If you only feel comfortable fighting against their infrastructure, break their infrastructure. All right, but do something. And when you break their infrastructure, they're going to be like, hey, persona non grata, you're breaking my infrastructure. You're breaking my infrastructure, I'm breaking your face, right? And then you're going to have to be violent against them. These are assaults. They're already assaulting your consciousness with frequency. You're just sitting here being assaulted. There's not a way to get away from that. And of course, they are achieving a soul debt by assaulting you. But now it is time for you to, or it's not now, it's time. It has always been time. And it is of the utmost importance for you to regain your capability to fight back. And I speak to you now within this dream that is a dream within the larger consciousness experience of ancient concurrent Atlantis. And in that world too, you must hear this message of like, you have to fight against pathogens and invaders. You can't let them come here. You can't let them do this. You can't let them erect this mind control stuff. If they erect this mind control stuff, like you're shit out of luck and you're never going to get out of the hole, you got to do something about this now. And that is also similar to where you are in the transhumanism, artificially augmented mind, slow creep, like towards Neuralink and these other things. Like if you let them implant Neuralink in people's brains, then pretty much you're in a prison that you are not going to be able to get out of. And at a certain point, people will be born into it. Like you get born and they put the vitamin K solution in your eyes and they inject you with this and that, and you've got your thing. Like they're already kind of doing it. Look how unhappy my face is. And then they would only do it more. Like time for you to get your brain slug, or maybe they give you brain slug in the womb. And brain slug is pretty much this stuff. And this stuff is already been injected into people while they are gestating. And there's been, of course, huge mortality as a result of that. Like a lot of those lives didn't form. You lost the potential of those amazing lives because they couldn't live in that distorted form. It took them away from themselves so much. Yes. So let me speak a little bit more about prayer. Prayer is supposed to be very beautiful, divine lovemaking, and is supposed to be, you can pray for things that are outside of your control, and you can pray for things that are uplifting and good. Like when you want to be like, I pray for my friend to, whatever, get a new vacation or a new car or something really, really nice. You can pray for a positive thing, a positive blessing to go to someone. And you can also pray for like the cessation of something that is negative. People do this because they feel disempowered. And prayer is the cognitive steam release for people's passions. And when something, is resolved, oftentimes people will give credit to God and they will say, I prayed for this and I'm glad to see it happen. That is when, instead of outsourcing your need for protection to the police or the army, you outsource your need for divine intervention to God. And you do need to have divine intervention, but it should be something that you claim ownership of from within. And you should also not be afraid, like, I hope I don't do the wrong thing. Like, you're God. You should hope that you don't do the wrong thing, and you should try to do the right thing. And then if you find that you made a mistake, you should fix it and rectify it. And the way that you become God is through this process of attempting to be good, trying to do the right thing, making like 89% good, but 11% bad, and then continually fixing up the 11% that needs to be improved or rectified. It's exactly like being an artist. When you're an artist, you want to make something that is beautiful and a masterpiece. That's your intention. And then as you're making the project, you're like, some parts good, some parts crap. You celebrate the parts that are good and you fix up and improve the parts that are crap. It's different than saying that you have to have a complete comprehensive blueprint of goodness with no mistakes and then perform that without any diversion from the architecture they've created. That's a very, very tall order. And I don't always do that in my own artistry. And I want you to know it's fair to be on a quest. And even the sun, when you take on Path of Light stuff, you find out about this. The sun is always like emitting a reality, an artistic reality. It's like, here's reality. And then it's like, not perfect. Okay, all back in. Let's emit another reality. Here's reality. Not perfect, back in, but each time it is improved. Your process of making things better and the sun's process of making things better are really directly analogous and totally interrelated. And this also, so you're relieving yourself of the burden of perfectionism. You're also relieving the sun, stars, and Jesus or Christ consciousness from the expectation of perfectionism, where you can be like, oh, like maybe they don't know everything or haven't explored everything. And maybe they or that aspect of highest self is still a work in progress, is still figuring things out. That speaks to the former level of disappointment that people felt in this world, where they're like, God, Jesus, whoever is up there, you're supposed to be divine and perfect. This place is garbage. What are you doing? Why is it like this? When I give you this viewpoint, it's like you're moving from a spiritual infancy where you're like, mommy and daddy are perfect, to like being a young adult where you're like, mommy and daddy are flawed. They're not perfect, but they're doing their best. I think that they're good and they love me. They're doing their best, but they don't know everything. And when you do that, you are at the beginning levels of self-empowerment and taking responsibility in the world. So new patterns emerge because you see that there is pardon me, I'm going to call inadequacy in previous patterns. Something that's not perfect and not right, and that needs to be fixed up. And if you just were like, well, I only get to follow the previously existing patterns and everything here isn't right, but who am I to change things? Or I'm sure God made it this way on purpose. And I just have to integrate all of that crapped up stuff into my expectation. That is all wrong. You have to be like, I love myself and am loved by the structure of reality. If I feel that things are flawed and inadequate, I feel that for a reason. Like, here's one example from me in my life. I have excellent hearing. And I not only hear things that are like little tiny rattles and sounds and things like that, where I'm like, oh, something needs to be fixed. I hear that rattle, but I also hear like instruments that are out of tune, tempos where there is a lag. Like in my piano, it's all software. Sometimes I press a key and there's a tiny lag, and I hear that. I'm like, oh, that's got to be fixed up. These are gifts, not inconveniences. So when you perceive that something is out of tune in reality, other people might not hear it. Lots of people here are partially deaf. I had to learn that. I'm like, people don't hear this? Like, they don't hear this. Most people are partially deaf. You're perceiving things that most people don't hear. And then also, you perceive it not so that you can be tormented by it, but so that you can fix it. I'm like, that sounds out of tune. I am retuning that immediately. And I go through life doing that. And yes, I'm a person who walks into a room and I'm like, this painting is tilted, fix it. Like, this thing is not right, fix it. This, whatever, this stuff is not right, fix it. And that's why I told you they used to call me Joan Crawford at Mommy Dearest at one of my earliest workplaces. They were like, Mommy Dearest. But that's because of it's literally your prerogative when you perceive. I think that was the word I was looking for earlier about the sun and the sun's prerogative. It is your prerogative to improve reality. It is why you are here. So you have to know you weren't emanated here just to be sitting in your high chair and eating Cheerios and doing nothing while the world is imperiled or very garbage or destroyed. You are here to have an impact on reality and to have a good impact on reality. Here, let me hug Cheeky while we talk about this. So your reality that you are trying to emanate is antithetical to the evil people. And you're having a battle of the bands where you're like, I want to emanate a cool reality where we hug dogs, dance, go to park and make paintings, do fun stuff. And the evil ones want to emanate a reality where there's no food, people have human cannibalism, or where people are all covered in cancers or disgusting like radiation burns. Like, they want to emanate a reality that is completely antithetical to my reality. And there's not a way to play both of these songs at the same time. And you're in this moment right now of maximum tension, maximum friction between these dualistic views. And you have to fight for supremacy of your own view. So initially, when I came here as Aurora, I was emitting my music and emitting my beautiful story of reality and narratives that I wanted to see happen. And it wasn't enough to just be like, I'm making beautiful music, I'm making beautiful music, because the evil ones were like, hey, someone's making beautiful music, shut her up now. Like, shut up, stop doing it. Like, they will try to stop you. You have to, in the end, you can't just be like, I'm just making beautiful stuff, because they will be like, I am going to kill you for making beautiful stuff. And then you have to fight against them. So instead of saying, oh, well, how about I have an army, a bunch of whatever guys that are going to protect me so that I can just be in my studio making beautiful stuff and painting stuff, or I can just be emitting beautiful stuff from my own mind. And the answer is have to be self-sufficient and be able to protect yourself and protect your own creation. What if somebody wipes out your army of protection? And then you're like, oh, it's just me against the satanic hordes. You have to be prepared to be able to fight to protect your own creation. So what is your creation? I'm female and I center it very much on the womb, but it's, centered in your ability to create life, because I want males to be able to like connect with this too. So it's your ability to create life, like your generative force, your passions about creating life, not only even like keeping the old patterns going, but making something new happen that hasn't been able to be here before. These are miraculous capabilities. Let me make sure I get to all the different questions. So, I mean, back to this question about prayer, like what should you do? Should you pray to God? Because like you're going to get into a mind fuck if you do this, because people are like, God, I pray, God, thank you so much, God. I pray to you to fix this problems that you created and have ignored up until this point. Like it's very difficult when you get into, applying rationalism to this, which is why most people, when they go into prayer, they go into a suspension of rational intellect and analysis. And they're like, I don't know how it's going to work. It's just going to work somehow. I'm just going to pray. Like, it's good for you to suspend your disbelief and it's good to get beyond rationalism, but there are too many conflicts in God as the omniscient creator, God as the benevolent creator, God as the omnipotent creator, and the existence of garbage in the world. Because you'd be like, God knows, God created it on purpose, God put it there on purpose. Like, I'm going to pray to God, be like, God, can you please clean up this thing that you already made, that you already know about, that I am asking you to clean up? And that's why it's not an effective posture. Because it's like, well, how come God hasn't cleaned it up already? And why do you have to ask? And then the New Age people make up some bullshit about like, oh, you have to directly ask. Otherwise, they can't just reach in and help you, which, again, just fragrant bullshit. Like, because they're trying to falsely portray angels as being like up on a cloud and be like, oh, dear ones, we love you so much, but we cannot intervene in what's going on in life. But all I can do is send you this blog and whatever, some fluffy love, some love, and that is not correct, and that is not what truly higher dimensional benevolent organisms are doing, and that is not what your coherent light family is doing. So your coherent light family must be more powerful than merely giving you ideas for something and be like, hey, like here's an idea, like invent this or invent that, and you have to go through the difficulty of actually inventing it and making it happen. Like they must be much more consciously engaged in directly creating and shifting reality structures than just like giving you a good idea. Giving you a good idea and kind of like sending you on your way, be like, here, like you go do it. Like that is it's like making a 3-year-old clean up the house. And that's absolutely not a good proposal. Because like even if you're a good 3-year-old and you want to try, like you're gonna do a crappy job because don't know what you're doing because you're 3 years old. So no, you have to do a lot more. So the dynamic between yourself and your higher dimensional family of light also needs to be really, really different than that. I would be very disappointed if I went to my family of light and I was like, hey, I need some help. And they were like, here's an idea. Like it would like imagine if you were really poor and you went to your family for help. You're like, I need some money. And they're like, here's an idea. Start a business. I don't need an idea. Like I need some money. And so it's kind of that feeling like when you go to your coherent family of light and you're like, something is wrong in the world. And they're like, well, here's an idea that you can use. And if you do it with your behavior, then you can fix it up. It's like, I need more than that. That is not actually that helpful. And in my notes, when you go through it, I write about how you're supposed to be in a beautiful partnership and a collaboration between your coherent family of light and yourself as biological, because when you work together, you live eternally. When you have good ideas, then you are propelled in a correct direction. And you're like, I'm going to stay alive because I am thinking correctly and I have the right ideas. But that's not to say, like, that means you have the correct worldview, the correct foundation, you do the math correctly, you're perceiving and interpreting reality correctly through your filter, and then your behavior is also correct. But it's not fair, like if you needed help and went to anybody and they said, like, I'm not going to do it for you, I'm just going to give you the recipe, and then you have to find the ingredients and do it yourself. That's very fake and very bullshit and not actually very helpful at all. So then you would have to be then you would be questioning them, and you should be disappointed in them. And the disappointment is real, and it can happen as a result of trauma. And then people are like, well, fuck you, chakras, I don't even want you. And then people are like, how can I remove my chakras? And then they will Google chakra removal, and then they will get some crazy practitioner to try to do something to them. All of that is not optimum. All of that is not good at all. So everybody has to come up with a new plan right now. The coherent family of light, that is your chakras, needs to come up with a new behavior pattern because they need to purge themselves of the evil, gross stuff that lives in the membrane of death. Chakras, higher family of light, that contains gross doo-doos. That's not just your responsibility to clean up. Higher dimensional family of light responsibility to clean up too. And how would it feel to them if they came to you and they're like, hey, we've got this problem, we've got these infestations on the membrane of death, and we need your help. And you're like, oh, well, I'll just give you an idea, and then you can do it your own fucking self. Like that would be very wrong. So you guys have to work together to clear out the pooties that are on the membrane of death. And when you work together, like I just gave you a lot of like an attitude type of thing, but there's no attitude. There's just like, oh, we have a common goal. We want your cellular body to stay alive and be in the right timeline. And just staying alive and having food and water is not the same as being alive under optimum conditions. So being alive where it's like, there's nothing good to do in the world and there's no artwork and you're just going to eat a can of beans in a bunker. Like that you're alive, but you're just warehoused. You're not really growing. The way that you really stay alive is by staying on your optimum timelines where you grow and evolve as a soul. And so for me, that means like, we're going to need to have music and artwork and even the capability to launder our clothing and iron things too. Like this is a good, stable life to be able to do those things. Collecting my thoughts here. The way that the higher dimensional benevolent societies, higher dimensional galactics, and even your own chakras have been portrayed to you, I think is inadequate, not accurate, and gives you a diminished sense of how much help you can get from them. We all should be getting a lot more direct and effective help from our chakras in confronting evil here in the world. And like that means not just it should be a direct intervention. And it should not be something that you have to say, please, oh, please clean up the house. They should come and clean up the house because it needs to be done. And it's already very late and very overdue. So when it happens or when you engage with them, you have to be able to say, I needed this to be done a long time ago. And there was a lot of death and disease as a result of you guys not being more timely. Why didn't you do this sooner? And you have to have that conversation. And we have to have that conversation with the chakras, coherent family of light, Christ, and Jesus, or Christ consciousness and Jesus, or whoever is in leadership at that level. And I've already shared with you my estimation because I know the Christ network very well. And I am presuming that they have been incinerated or destroyed because I know that they would literally do everything in their power to prevent what is happening right now. Like so many things have failed. So many fail safes have failed in our reality for us to be in this position. The only thing that makes sense to me is that these beautiful, benevolent civilizations and force fields of protection have been eradicated somehow. And because they would never stand around and let these bad things happen, they probably fought with everything they had and then get destroyed. And you have to come to like acceptance of that possibility, because if you're waiting around here wrapped in the spiritual blanket and rocking back and forth and being like, coherent family of light is going to fix it, Jesus is going to fix it, someone out there is going to fix it. What if there is no one else out there? And what if you have to fix it yourself? That is where I'm coming from. That you can't just wait and hope that there will be someone who will come along and do it. I think you must rise to the occasion. If you are not able to rise to the occasion, don't worry. I'm here. Like I'm cleaning up. But also, if you want to make my life easier, clean up yourself. And also, not just making my life easier, because I don't want you to just be a servant for me. If you want to feel more empowered and less fucking depressed about life, clean up. Because there's nothing better than being like, wow, look at all this evil in the world. I want to clean up. I don't want to cohabitate with it. Don't want to deal with the end results of the evil, the pollutions that are in the world. There's not a way to live well with the pollutions that they're pumping out at this point. Like their pollutions are so pervasive and going into everything in your life that it's not like you can live a good life while they are being evil. And that's not a good proposal anyway. Even if they promise like, oh, they'll live in an underground warren, whatever, underground cities, and then you'll live above ground, you'll never see each other, and they'll just do their gross stuff underground, still not acceptable. And this has been a proposal for a long time. Like, what if we just remain the unsubconscious desires for cannibalism and rape within your culture, and we don't actually overtly express ourselves? And they've done that for thousands of years. Like, you don't want them to just hide in the background. You want to actually get rid of them. And this is your opportunity. So I hope that this has been like a good motivator for you. I am not trying to sound like I am caustic and giving a critique of you and your levels of activity or engagement. I hope that I am reminding you of permission. If I'm not giving you permission, I'm reminding you of permission. Your permission to fight for protecting your own soul, protecting those that you love, protecting your planet, and for the abstract of freedom. And the evil ones love to do this type of mind fuckery where they're like, oh, I'm protecting freedom too. I'm free to be evil. And I always say this. I'm like, yes, evil stuff. You are free to be evil. I am free to send you to entropy or to destroy you or to unmake you because you are a great wrongness. So that is how this really works. They always have this attitude where they're like, I'm free to be evil. I'm free to do what I want to do. I'm like, you are. We live in freedom. You are free to be evil. I am free to destroy you. That is how this goes. And then we get into who is stronger. And then that is what you know as the barbarian value system. The person who is in charge is the person who is strongest. And the person who is strongest here is the person who is who doesn't need augmentation, like non-technological augmentation, and has the loudest voice. And that's the battle of the bands. All right, that's actually a good completion point. Let me make sure that I get to all questions and comments over here. Um, Pedro says pray equals someone else do something. Totally. Excellent. Pedro, I've told you this before, and I really appreciate you. You have a great gift of being able to condense what I say for like 25 minutes into one little thing. Good job. And Suzuka is also really good. She says, pray equals energy drain. I agree. Because you know what that is? Like when you really feel like something needs to change and you're really like upset about what's happening in reality. And when people pray, it takes that energy of being upset and just like kind of releases it. And then you're like, okay, someone out there is going to do something. I can feel better now, go on with my day, and I feel much better. It is a self-soothing calamine lotion on the inflammation of your soul. And it's totally fake. Like if you just always have a rash and you always put calamine lotion on it, like it doesn't fix the rash at all. It just makes it feel mildly better. And it is self-soothing. And that's also when I talk about people rocking back and forth, sucking their thumb, everything like prayer in many ways is self-soothing. When it is intercessional prayer, where you're like, God, please, oh, please do this. But also when it is repetitive prayer is like spiritual OCD. When people are like, oh, now I say these words over and over and something will happen. And that's very much what the litanies and liturgies in these different institutions are. There's Jewish ones, there's Catholic ones. Say these words over and over, and then something will change in reality. Reality doesn't change, but you say the words over and over and it makes you feel better. This is OCD. When you have OCD, your brain tells you, like, touch the doorknob 10 times and you'll feel better. And you do it and you're like, I did it and I feel better. This really works. So in a lot of ways, it is ridiculous. There's another book I can really recommend, not a total endorsement of Orson Scott Card because it's got some baggage too, but good book called Children of the Mind of Christ. So it's a science fiction book, and there's a whole planet of these people, and a select group of their echelon of society. They're called the God-spoken. And the God-spoken can hear the voice of the God, supposedly, but they're also totally incapacitated by their OCD because sometimes God tells them to do crazy things like wash their hands 50 times or follow a line on the floor with their eyes, and they have to bend down and look at it and trace their way all the way across the floor. And if they get interrupted, they have to start from the beginning again. And basically, it's ways of incapacitating people who are otherwise geniuses. They had a planet full of geniuses, and they implanted this OCD gene in them to incapacitate them, and they weren't really hearing the real God at all. They were hearing just like fake, imposter gods. Prayer is also a form of intercessional OCD. Instead of people really actively, meaningful engaging in life and fixing and problem solving and making the world better, they are given an arbitrary and meaningless thing to do, follow a line on the floor or wash their hands 12 million times, and that will somehow improve reality. And it doesn't. It just keeps you extremely busy all the time. Rebecca says, as I've become more aware of sorry, I'm squinting so much, aware of what's going on, I've stopped praying over the last few months. I feel like I've gotten my power back. I feel much more on the offensive than the defensive. It's totally changed my energy. I also have more IDGAF, I don't give a fuck energy than trying to keep the peace. I respect you very much, and I thank you for that sharing. And I would like for people to know, like, I'm happy to hear that people are growing and that they are actively engaging with their energy and with their passions. And there is a way to have a beautiful relationship with God, a beautiful collaboration with the sun, and beautiful companionship and respect. And I think that that's the type of relationship to cultivate, like when you do sun gazing, when you are connecting with the world of pure light, when you are an active participant in creating reality. And then it's like having a real relationship, not a fake or quid pro quo relationship. And I'm very aware, like, so I'm saying these things because I'm very aware of the potential for misperception, because I don't want to be projected upon that people are like, Aurora is evil because she's telling us not to pray, and also saying that I'm evil because I'm trying to tell you to be violent. Don't pray and be violent. That's like, I'm very aware of how that appears to people. So prayer can be very genuine. When I used to attend a local church here, I would go there specifically to prevent the very genuine prayers and the prayerful energy of those people from being siphoned off and misappropriated by an imposter God. And I was like, no, you're not going to steal these prayers. Like, these prayers are going to real God, not to fake God. So, because prayer is like the beginning, it's like the little baby steps for a lot of people in believing in something that's non-materialistic, believing in themselves, wanting to be better, trying to be better. Like, I don't want to shut that down in people. So, for beginners and for, these very early stages of development, like, that's a good thing. And that's also why, like, I tailor my message to who you are in my class and to where you are at your level of development. At your level of development, no, you should not be incapacitating yourself by simply praying and then hoping that something else will get done what you want to achieve. You should work to be able to achieve those things. So even some people pray to God for the revelation and the restitution at the end of time. And that's exactly like calling the police and being like, we got a bunch of criminals here, come in here and clean house. I actually agree with the proposal to clean house. I just do not agree with your modality of calling the police. And you're going to be like, are you advocating for vigilante justice? I'm like, yes, of course I am. Because you know why? Like, you live in the Wild West. There is not a police force here. I mock the dark side when I'm doing something to them that they don't like. And they're like, wah, 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 you're not allowed to do that. And I say to them, call the police. Because look, there's been no police force coming here and stopping these very, very evil fucking losers from frying your brain with 5G fictionally, or implanting all of your world leaders with black goo and taking over their minds. No police have shown up and said what you're doing is a cosmic crime, except for me. All right. So when someone says like, hey, like you're not allowed to do this, be like, there's a lot of things that are not allowed going on in the world. And I am going to do this anyway because I feel like it's the right thing to do inside. Like the answer is there is no police. And this even relates to, and this is going to be like, I should have ended this conversation a long time ago. I'm opening another can of worms, like spiritual assessment. Each one of us does face an assessment about what you did with your psychic gifts. And it's like, there's not a board, like you're going to have to face scrutiny of the board. They're going to look at you and be like, did you use your psychic powers well, or did you use them like an asshole? There is actually no scrutiny. You are your own oversight. And that's a difficult message to bring because so many people are ready to game the system where they're like, I'm the fox guarding the hen house. I did a good job. A plus 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 on my, and now I graduate myself. Like a lot of people would do that, which is not acceptable. But yeah, you have to assess your own powers and your own levels of greatness. And that's like me assessing my artwork. I am my harshest critic on my paintings. I make sure that everything is perfectly in place. And if there is a mistake or something is the wrong color, I'm the person who will be the first person to point it out. So I'm very tough on myself in all of my assessments of my how I use my psychic powers too, more than I would be if someone else was looking over my shoulder and being like, we're the board, we're the police, we're here to make sure that you're painting everything correctly. I'd be like, I'm painting everything correctly. And like, you don't even know what you're talking about. So please don't be in my face about things. That's how you have to be. You should live your life and use your psychic gifts according to the standards that you will be proud to display you have done in your life with your gifts. And there really is not a psychic powers oversight committee that's going to be like, you were bad and you did a bad thing. No one is qualified to be that. They are all evil. No one is qualified to be that and be like, I'm going to come forward and decide whether you're worthy of having your psychic gifts. No individual, no occult society, and no former space race, because they've all been wiped out. But there were a lot of guys that would have been happy to do that and come in and police your psychic powers. But yeah, no, right now there's no one out there. So when you do this, this is the Wild West. And that's also why, like, I hesitate to tell you about these things because I don't want you to punch above your weight class. Don't be like, oh, let me go attack a black belt or something like that. If you're just starting out, please don't do that. But also, please note, in the Wild West, people who were innocent and unarmed were attacked all the time and destroyed. It's not a protection of self to be untrained or unarmed and not be able to protect yourself. So I like very much, Rebecca, that you said here through not praying like in this wasteful way and wasting your energy. So through maintaining your energy, not wasting it, you now feel like you are more on the offensive and less on the defensive. That is what we all want to be. And that is a very good way. You have to have offense in a game. You have to have the capacity to make goals. You have to have more than the capacity to just shield yourself from bad realities. You have to be able to make good realities. You should make good realities with your mind. You should be using your psychic powers to destroy the machines that emanate this stuff, the organizations that created and authorized the insertion of this stuff, and that's including governments and intelligence agencies and biochemists that did this type of stuff, and also to fight against and protect yourself from the people that are already full of and influenced by this stuff because they are amplified psychosis and amplified pathology. They're amplified cancers in the world, and you have to wipe out those cancers. And so again, you have to be surgical. When you wipe out cancer, you don't just want to like take away healthy tissue and good people. You want to take away only the things that are obviously pathogenic, and you can't uncancer a cell. Like there's not a way for you to redeem a cell that is like obviously a cancer, that's harming the rest of the world. This is the final thing. One of the things I don't agree with about Christian religion, it's put forward as like the last hope, the resolve of I want to say wayward spiders. I don't know. My brain is tired, but like people have hit rock bottom. The last hope, people have hit rock bottom, and people even go to rock bottom so that way they can have their come to Jesus moment. They're like, no, I need to take more meth so I can have the come to Jesus moment. That's very erroneous, of course, and it really means that Jesus, as it is presented in the Christian religion, is a resort, a hope of last resort, the last hope of those who are so desperate that they don't have a better option. And for some people, they burn all of the bridges and close all of the other portals and doorways, and then that becomes their last hope or last option, like a Hail Mary pass. Like maybe if they get saved by Jesus, then they will go in a particular better direction. It's not truthful. Like you can't do that. The math of the cosmic infrastructure does not support that proposal. And that's another rug pull. And a lot of people live their lives very, very badly. And then they're like, recant on your deathbed, come to Jesus. And it's like, it does not work that way. And that does not actually help you. And you will not make it to some kind of a paradise afterlife by being in that way. Like you're still going to have to pay all of your debts. I know I had much more to talk about that. But okay, so this is good. Pedro knows superhero lore, and he says Superman gets his power from light. We all know this. He gets his powers from that funky yellow sun, right? And says, yes, he's too honorable or naive or arrogant to stay and receive the attack. Yeah, exactly. So you understand. First of all, correct. Superman is really the only true alien of the super being pantheon. The rest are just humans with money wearing silly costumes and stuff like that. But Superman actually came from another world. And what gives him his superpowers in this world is exposure to our weird yellow sun. So he comes from planet Krypton. That's around a different sun that has different colors of light. This is just fictional stuff. And that's why the rocks kryptonite from his original planet turned him into a regular person, because he feels like a regular person. If he didn't live on Earth, if he lived on Krypton, he would be a regular person according to their standards, but his homeworld was destroyed. I just gave you way more information than you needed to know about that. But if you are hanging out with any kindergartners, they will really respect your knowledge and deep information of Superman lore. And if you want to know Superman's dad's name, it was Jor-El. And Superman's actual name from Kryptonite is Kal-El. Again, that will help you in some imagined trivia contest in the future. Pedro says, if I got superpowers, I would think it's because God wants me to have them and I would use them. But I would be careful. Someone will want to take them away or control me. Yes, I have thought a lot about this scenario. Yeah. So I have these divinely given superpowers, and I have fought a lot against the technologists and psychologists that have been part of the artificial, like the MK Ultra mind control. They're like they're giving people artificial or augmented or distorted powers, and I have natural powers. And they're like, hey, stop using your natural powers. Like you're harming us. And I'm like, stop using your artificial powers. You are harming me. So I have been at odds with them very, very much. And they've tried to take away my powers and to co-opt my powers and to destroy my powers. And I'm always like, here's a big one, everyone. Like, it is not up to any embodied human whether or not I'm allowed to have my psychic powers. Say that to yourself about yourself. It is not up to any embodied human. Your psychic powers are like your eyesight or your earlobes. You're born with it, and it is your choice about how you use it and what you look at or what you know about. There's a lot of self-proclaimed people in this world who are like the men who stare at goats, they're gonna look at you and be like, you're not allowed to have those powers. Going to do a mind wipe or a mind fry or something like that. They've been doing this for a long time. They find potential Christs and they try to take away their powers. Sometimes it is through sexual violence. These violations that happen are often not random at all. They know who people are and they try to break them and destroy their willpower and their sense of empowerment, because rape is such a violation that it makes people feel not powerful and it really brings down people's psychic gifts. They also try to do things through fluoride. Wait, let me open another can of worms while we're at the very, very end of class. Anybody here been in the gifted and talented program, GATE, gifted and talented education? It was international and they did hearing tests and all sorts of things on kids in a special extracurricular testing area at school to determine who had psychic powers. And then if you had psychic powers, they fed you fucking fluoride. And they did it like 3 times. And then they did testing afterwards. They're like, does this kid still have psychic powers? Give him more fluoride. Literally, they did that across the United States and internationally because I've talked to people about this. So that is an excellent example of a government funded, occult society funded, concerted effort to wipe people out who have psychic powers. And they're like, hey, we're being so nice. We're not killing your kid. We're just filling his mind with fluoride so he can't use his psychic powers anymore. That actually happened. That was for real. Suzuki says, I listened to Darius Wright, and he says exact same that you just said. He says, you face and judge yourself, and it's extremely painful when you see that you withheld love. When you're here, no one else is in judgment of you. I really do think that is truthful. And we have to be cautious because sociopaths don't have an inner filter to be able to have a conscience. If you sat a sociopath down and you were like, look, like here's where you stabbed somebody in the face and it hurt them a lot. They'd be like, yeah, that was great. I really stabbed them in the face. Stab again. Like they don't learn because they're sociopaths. So for many people, they're unredeemable. It's not a fair proposal for Christianity to say like everybody can be redeemed and just hit rock bottom and then Jesus will save you. Like some people are sociopaths and they will never learn that it is wrong to stab people in the face. And they know that they are causing harm and they don't fucking care. And that you need to know that that's who you're dealing with. So good people change when we are confronted face to face our mistakes. Bad people don't change. Irredeemable, not in an educational environment. And that was what makes them a pathogen. And thank you for letting come full circle to say that. And Pedro says, can't decide between love the returning lasagna and love the Battle of the Bands lasagna. How about everyone votes? I love it. So you can vote. And maybe that's also a good little completion because we're kind of conditioned in a world of democracy to say like one man, one vote. One person has one opinion and everybody's opinion adds up into the slush fund of humanity. And you kind of make things happen as a group. I don't agree to that proposal at all. I know that that has been used as a functional convenience to find consensus in your world and create some form of organized rules that you can agree on. But that does not work in any way in terms of spiritual truth. In spiritual truth, it is not a democracy. In a band, it is not a democracy. In a band or in a symphony, you literally have one person who has their shit together and they're like, I am the conductor. I wrote this music. I know all of the parts and I am telling you what to do. And you don't have the musicians be like, I don't like what you're telling me, conductor. I fight against you. I'm going to play my own thing over here. Blah, blah, blah. You get kicked out of the band. If you do that, that's not allowed. That is not fair. So let's say someone's like, oh, the band is playing this or that song with DNA. I don't like it. I'm going to CRISPR my music. I'm playing my CRISPR music. And then I don't care what you guys are all playing. And the conductor's going to be like, you can't play that. I get you out of the band. And that is called death and destruction and entropy. Because the conductor must have the strongest boundaries and say, you can't be here if you're going to play that music. You are free to play that music, but you are not free to be here when you play that music. There are consequences. And the stupid, facile idiots of the dark side, like, I'm free to play my music. They're like, Pee-wee Herman, like, nah, 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 nah. I was like, you are free to do it. And then we are free to destroy you because that's it. You can't do that here. And so who votes? In the spiritual world, who votes? Who is important? People who have a divine connection, people who are not technologically infested, people who are natural people. So the hydrogel soldiers, they don't get a vote. In fact, the less human and the more checked out you are from your body, the less you vote. the more present you are in your body, the more your vote counts. And that's in the battle of the bands, who wins? The people that are the most present in their body and the most divinely connected and playing the patterns that are most closely expressing divine harmonics. Okay. Um, And Lisa says, thank you. Beautiful share. Love to you and Cheeky. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for being a great student. We're always thinking about you and sending you positive energy and love back. Thank you. And Susie says, thank you, Aurora. Thank you, Cheeky, for sharing your Aurora with us. Thank you guys for that. Because Cheeky's definitely like, hey, like, I want food. I want to play. I want to go to the park. Like, why are you talking to this computer all the time? No, she actually knows, and she hears her voices, and she knows that people are there. So thank you for that. And I'll hug her soon. And Amy says, thank you so much for this beautiful presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is incredibly meaningful to me that you guys are open to and receive what I share with you so much, because I recognize that this is highly elevated stuff, not for everyone, and that it can be challenging to hear these poking of sacred cows and reassessment of foundational presumptions. And that I challenge people to reconsider a lot of things. I hope that you can sense my innate goodness. I really hope that you can sense that. When I say in my lasagna music, I say, may all true faces be revealed, I also mean my face. I would very much like for you to see my true face and know that I am good and know that the message that I'm bringing to you is like very truthful. I'm not a rug pull. If you listen to me and you're like, okay, even though all these spiritual traditions tell me to be passive and nonviolent, but Aurora's like, get up and kick ass. I'm going to get up and kick ass. Be like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like, you will not be disappointed. You will actually find out that that was like an excellent decision, and that you will be like, I wish I had fought back sooner. You'll be like, good, just finally started fighting back and doing something. Yeah, you will not regret it, and you will see the truthful direction that I am coming from as I bring this information to you. And although consensus and democracy is not at play here, it does feel good to me to have social acceptance and celebration. That there are people in the world that are like, oh, Aurora is good. We like Aurora and we like what Aurora is saying. And Aurora is not evil. And Aurora is not Lucifer. You know what? Because like there's this painting of Lucifer and his hair looks a lot like my hair. And I'm just like, we do not go to the same hairdresser. I am not him. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you. And Pedro says, thank you to both masters, Aurora and Cheeky. Thank you very much for that and for your love and recognition of Cheeky. She is very important and very special to me. And she's a great example of having very strong spiritual boundaries. Because if she doesn't like someone in the world, like she will definitely bark. She'll tell us all about it. She's not passive. And she's like, this little old dog. She's like still barking at the UPS guy. She's like, I'm gonna get you, UPS guy. So she's not passive. She's doing good. I'm very silly. Thank you for allowing me to be sometimes a little lighthearted and silly. Very, very much. Really profoundly grateful that you guys are willing to listen to me and that you take what I bring to you from the very real direction of goodness and caring about you, that I bring it to you. Would love to see you in states of total freedom. And you know what? Like, you guys are good. And I also think like you will do a good job. Like if I told you like clean the house, I think you would do a good job. Like you Windex over here, you sweep over here, you scrub the toilet. Like you're not idiots. You know what goodness is. You know what evil is. You know what correct, socially appropriate behavior is. Like you're not idiots. So a huge amount of recognition. My nicer language is a huge amount of recognition flows to you that you are capable of being able to make these choices and wield your powers effectively. All right. So thank you for that. A long, beautiful, good class. And I'm always very, very glad to be able to be here and to give these classes, and profoundly grateful to all the students who are here and everyone who catches things in the archive later. You're fantastic. And I thank you for watching. Okay. Now you can all like throw your books and pencils in the air and everybody go do something fun and not too cognitively difficult. All right. Good. Have a beautiful night, everyone. Thank you so much.